Are you all staying cool?
Absolutely.
Rather be in Long Island.
Soon, very
It's warm
soon.
here too, by the way, it's like 91 today.
Doesn't it, sometimes it's hotter up here than it is here, so.
Look at that.
Yeah, it's crazy hot.
Cheryl, I think you're gonna get a text from my granddaughter. She wants to know if you can get tickets to Taylor Swift in Indiana.
Oh, really? Okay, I can try.
Well, I had some things, but you go.
Okay.
Go.
So just a couple little small things. I wanted to ask Ken, because I forgot to ask, well, Ken, I know had to go early at the last meeting. Ken, I had it in my head, good morning, by the way.
Are we backing up?
I know, I need to back up the truck. The reserves, did we need to vote on the reserve studies being final? I had it in my head that in the email when you sent us the draft,
Yes,
we need to vote to make them final, but I guess we need to do that in the meeting, right?
Yes.
yeah,
Okay. All right, so that's the first.
thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, no worries. I don't know why it popped into my head, because I'm waiting to get rid of the old one before I put the new one in. So, and I'm gonna do a couple things just to sort of shorten up supervisor comments, because I always have some. Want to let you all know that the parking lot light replacement project is underway. The vendor's waiting for the deposit check, and then at that point, the lights, the parts, if you will, would be ordered. And then it takes and that's gonna take about, say, 2 or 3 weeks for the parts to come in, and then the job will get scheduled. So it will be for the end of the summer. I just wanted you to know in case it came up. Not that
There is a change in the type of light. You're aware of that, right?
No.
Yeah. The initial thought that we were given about a certain type of light was a different vendor.
Mhm.
So in conjunction with Miles and Tim Carr, and it came to me as well, there was a switch made in the type of light. It's
Oh,
not
so,
affecting,
okay.
not affecting the price or anything like
Oh, I see.
that.
Okay.
But,
So something had to be re-signed. Okay.
Luminance.
yeah, the
Okay,
lumens had to be
okay.
readjusted,
Okay. Got it.
but it's on its way.
Okay.
I think Ken's gonna be able to see those lights from Maine.
Oh, that's not good. Well, I'm supposed to be focused downward, right? Well, I don't want to keep going. Somebody else pile in here. Do you have anything? For Ken and Cheryl?
And maybe
I
Ken,
just have something I'd like to talk about.
okay,
One is that a couple of meetings ago, the board asked that the landscape committee look at doing let's see, the north side of the drive to the River Club in the same fashion as the right side was done. Do you want to wait on that? We have that from LMP. Do you want me to put it on the next meeting agenda? Do you want to wait till see if we get a landscape architect to come back at us? How would you like to handle that?
I think we could probably wait on it because we're gonna take a look at the RFQ for the architect today, I believe.
Right?
And then those are due back in August, so we're not talking about a large amount of time, right?
Right. Yeah, no, I just wanted to make sure, since it was a request, I wanted you all to know that we didn't just ignore it.
Yeah, well, that's just my thought. There's three other people here.
Yeah, I absolutely think we should wait.
Wait there.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay, sounds good. That's all I wanted to check on.
Ken, you get a word here too.
Well, I didn't have anything in particular that's other than if we want to discuss the background of a couple of the agenda items. I know we've been talking.
Do we lose you? Oh, bummer.
Oh, yeah, all right, he's gonna have to call back somehow.
Okay. Good timing. Should we wait till he calls back?
Yeah. Because if I call him, you know what happens, right?
Is that him
You'll have
calling?
to spin the cord.
Oh, it's for him to call back.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, you want me to try it? Oh, I think we should wait.
He probably doesn't realize it's. person
He may
talking.
not. Oh, poor thing, he's
He's probably still talking to
No,
me.
come on,
I'll
he's a
try.
man.
We've all done that.
Yeah.
I'll try.
Oh, I haven't.
Yeah.
No, no.
And then you never
It's-
know, and
it's
then you never know where you ended.
Let's try this.
I'll try to call him, so it doesn't.
Again,
block you.
let's keep it on the same phone. Call him back. You're back.
Oh.
Yes. Okay, wait a second, I'll put you back on speaker.
You should be able to hide your, you need to hide your,
Yeah.
there's different things than I do.
This is a phone workshop.
Hang on, yeah, and then speak.
Where's it 11 or when you need one?
Okay, yeah, exactly.
Okay, I think you're here.
Yeah, I can hear it.
Okay, good.
We lost you.
So what I was gonna suggest is, do we wanna go through some of the background of the gate access software
Yeah,
option?
Yeah.
also the question was, are you okay with waiting on that landscaping issue until we get the architect on board? Everybody else, everybody else said
which-
yes. On the north side of the entrance to the River Club. Cheryl has a quote for it,
Oh.
but
Yes,
okay, fine.
that's fine.
Okay, so want to take a look at the,
So we were down to two options, ISN and universal access. And I broke it down per your request of gate access only versus traffic control.
Right.
So we could discuss them separately or however you want to approach it. The two options come down to, ISN is also the vendor of Traffic Hawk, which we have one unit right now that needs to be upgraded. Universal Access uses Traffic Logic, which is a similar to Traffic Hawk, but it's obviously different. In both cases, if you choose one vendor, you're committed to, if you want to go back to traffic control at some point in time, you're committed to their product. So either Traffic Hawk or Traffic Logics. The upfront cost of ISN is significantly higher for gate access only. The upfront cost for Traffic Logics with universal access is higher, the one-time cost. On an ongoing cost basis, they're fairly similar. ISN is a little higher in both cases. In either way, we eliminate the software, which saves us about $2,700 a year. So that would reduce the annual fee for ISN from $11,000 and for universal access from $9,900 would save the $2,700 off of that. So the operating costs on an annual basis aren't that high. You've got the one-time setup cost. The only reason I think it's worth considering the traffic option, even though Rich, you did ask that I separate them out.
Yeah.
Is because you are committed to that vendor product once you go with the software for the gate access. Whether you do it now or not. And in either case, on an ongoing basis, Traffic Hawk, ISN is more expensive. They're both similar systems. They do what we want them to do. Universal Access is our current vendor, so there's some overall savings for immigration, gate control, and then if we move ahead at some point with the Silk Dollar entrance, having Universal Access as our primary vendor makes that switch over more efficient as well down the road. So my recommendation is to go with Universal Access for unifying the software, eliminating Southworth, and moving forward. I think you can ask Keith, but I think he's in the same place. And even though it will make the existing traffic hawk system obsolete, we really need to replace what's there anyway, and upgrade the existing traffic hawk if we wanted to go on using that, and probably adding a second one. So those are my thoughts.
Ken, it's Jill. Can you help me understand? I think we all saw Marshall's email with his concerns. I'm not entirely sure I understand what the concern is about losing everything. Maybe I misinterpreted it, but can you help?
I'm not sure what the concern is either, other than you lose the use of the one traffic hawk that we have, which is already out of date and needs upgrading. I think if there's any data to be lost, it's not particularly useful at this point anyway. I mean, they've never really used it that heavily. They've never fined anybody. I don't know that they've ever even sent out a notice to anybody. So I'm not sure what his, I think what his overall concern was he didn't want to lose the traffic control aspect of our decision. And I don't think we do that. It would just be a different vendor.
A different vendor that supplies basically the same type of information or whatever you want to call it.
That's compatible to what we're getting.
Okay.
Right.
It's
So
just,
it's essentially the same thing as what.
just with a different name.
Yes.
Now, Ken, is this we've spoken about the ability of residents to call in or to notify the gatehouse by a smartphone. Are we talking about that with this system?
Absolutely.
Okay.
With either system, you can do that.
Okay.
They have a resident app that will allow residents to do all the things that we're doing now by phone or however.
Now, speaking for the rest of the residents, myself being a computer expert, hey, is it easy to manipulate?
That's a bad choice.
Is it easy? Is it easy to use? Is it
easy?
user-friendly?
Easy is a relative term. But essentially, it's either one is equally adaptable. I would say for the average person, relatively easy to get used to, and I think with a couple of I won't say training sessions, but either video sessions or trial and error. I think either one of them is relatively easy to pick up.
I was going to say, is it possible that they could provide a video that residents could take a look at, just to give them some ideas as to how to work it?
Probably exists on YouTube.
I think there are videos. If you Google either ISN or TechWave,
Right.
there are there are videos available.
Okay.
Have we done any market analysis from similar communities with regards to these products?
We went down to a community in Naples that uses ISN.
I mean, similar market. it's like ours.
Well, it's similar, it's very much like that.
They're older.
Well, no,
They got a golf
it's
course and
another-
very big communities in there, so they're using that system. It's not the one we're recommending, but
Okay.
It's, yes, the answer is yes. The community was similar to ours, both CDD, they had CDD. They have multiple communities with multiple entrances.
Similar traffic amount.
I don't recall the numbers, but I think, I'm trying to remember, Keith, how many doors they had.
it was pretty close to ours, but there's three different
I thought it was like
entrances.
1,400.
Yeah, they have three different entrances that they use that entry system in.
Okay.
So this could be utilized at this other gate.
Oh, sure, yeah, they both can be
Okay,
programmed to do that, you bet.
all right.
Does it also offer, when a guest is gonna come, that they can just have a QR code or
Yes.
something that's printed out,
Yes,
so.
the
makes it easier for
guard
kids.
just scans it. And
Yes,
they can, the homeowner gets a notification immediately that their
Somebody's
guest has
come through.
arrived, those type of things.
That's what we need.
Also, with this program, at some point, if you decide you want to get rid of a guard, all right,
Well, that's-
they have a box there that, and they do have a QRF code. They just hold it up to the box and it reads that code and opens the gate and lets them in. So there's a lot of advantages to these systems. One's just a lot less expensive. One has a administrator that people can call into that, to help them if they don't understand. They can also be able to call me, all right? And, we can walk them through the program and those different type of things. So there's gonna be all kinds of,
For that small number of people, and I'm sure it does exist in here, that don't have or refuse to use a smartphone, they can still pick up their
and yes,
landline
absolutely.
and call.
yes.
Okay, all right, so just so that everybody has equal access in a
Sure,
sense.
you bet.
And Ken, in terms of, is there more RFID data cleanup we have, or maybe Keith, more data cleanup we have to do before we would undertake this?
Well, what we would do with one of them, okay, is that we can still use the same stickers that's on your car
I
now.
see.
Okay. But they would actually, they'd fill out a form, and present that to either me or the administrator up in Tampa or wherever, and they fill out, it's a completely different list, all right? And you have to turn it in, that list in, to us and get put on this new program, but the sticker doesn't have to change. We don't have to go reissue new stickers.
I see, so what you're saying, it's the same list, but in terms of the data that we're actually giving, whichever vendor we go with, is there anything we have to do with it, and is there a big difference with those two?
Yeah, the one that we looked at down there, you have to have different stickers.
Okay.
So every car, you gotta go,
Is that ISN?
yes,
Yeah.
you gotta go to house and redo all of their stickers and that program, okay? The other one, no, you don't have to. It actually, I think it looks better. And the program itself weeds out, old stickers or old people that have moved, those type of things. As soon as a new address comes up, because it goes just basically off of your home address.
So if somebody comes up to register their car and they live at 121 Portofino, and you say, oh, that's where Bracco lives, I'm out, they're in.
Correct.
Okay. And it'll be a seamless, seems like a lot better than I was involved in putting the stickers on the cars. It was a never-ending project. So,
But just so I'm clear,
Seems
the
a lot
data we're giving them now, is the data good or does it have work to do?
Oh, no, we're gonna give completely different data.
Okay,
Everybody in the Venetian will get a new form that you have to fill out and have the people that you want on your permanent access list, okay? in your cars, what type of cars you have, and they'll match up those stickers that are already in the system to that name,
I
and
see. That's what the form you were talking, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I misunderstood
Yes.
what that was.
Seems like an easier process to transition to, I would
amen.
think.
Well, I also think with, due respect to the traffic situation in general, I think, there's a hierarchy of what we need as a CDD, and I think the gate access piece is, for me anyway, number one.
Absolutely.
Okay. So do we have to wait till the meeting?
Yeah, well, we can't vote on anything
Yeah.
now, but
Okay,
Ken,
a lot of work.
I'll just say thank you very much for all the work that you've done, and Keith as well, and the others that were involved in this. And I think you've made a very good recommendation for us.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Okay.
While Ken's on, Ken, you put together that letter that we had discussed to go out with the
Yeah.
tax bill.
That's,
I had made a suggestion that we eliminate, and we discussed it a while ago, eliminate on item number 6 about Jill's blog.
Right.
That should be taken out, I think, and,
I thought I did.
well, not on the
No,
copy that just
no.
came through. I know it was a suggestion that I made written, I know that Jill mentioned it here, and probably.
No, then you've got the wrong copy.
Yeah, I think we do.
We all
Okay.
have it.
We all have our own
Yeah.
copy then.
It should say the newsletter, right?
No, this is a report on strategic direction and accountability.
Yeah,
Right.
and on the second page, item 6. The one that was just sent, the one that was included in the board package.
No, I didn't look at it because I had
Okay.
already printed mine out, but then you've got the wrong version.
Yeah,
We do. We do. Well, I mean, I have mine comments that I sent in.
Yeah.
Did you get well, you wouldn't know what my comments are because that would be a no-no, but,
could you send, do you have the
Yeah.
ability to send that again, and we could have it run off here?
Yes.
If you send it to Keith?
And could you email it to me?
I'll email it to all of you and Keith.
And Keith? Great,
Perfect.
okay.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know how that happened. I know I had sent it, to Belinda. But let me, all right, I'll do that during this workshop.
Okay, great, thank you.
okay.
Another question that's gonna come up, certainly, is gonna be meetings, and, so that we can maintain a quorum. How is everybody at the next meeting in July?
I'm specifically flying back. I'll give you, boy,
On the 20, we're talking about the 24th of July?
yeah, I'll be up north, obviously.
Okay, so you're not gonna be available that day?
I will.
You're coming back on that day?
I will come back the day before, specifically to attend the meeting. I will make the expenses.
The next question is it gonna be necessary to have it? Keeping in mind that it's an additional $2,000 if it's not necessary to have it. And,
Well, let's look at August. I think that's fair.
the second meeting in August, I'm in Europe, so I'm not available for that. First meeting in August, the budget meeting, I am here for that, but the second meeting, I'm not.
Okay.
I had intended to fly back for that budget meeting
The budget,
in
yeah,
August.
we'll have a quorum for the budget meeting, that won't be a problem.
Okay.
Okay.
The second meeting, I don't see the necessity.
Well, the reason I bring it up is because if you look at the RFQ, it talks about dealing with that at the August 24th meeting or whatever it is.
Yes,
So
I saw that.
on my copy, I said, let's put that to September 13th, is it, or whatever the date in September is. September 9th, yeah. It says August 26th on there, but I'm gonna suggest that we change that to September 9th. Unless there can be a quorum here, but I don't think there will be.
I support that. Okay. Let's
I
do
voted
it.
in place.
So you're suggesting to put it to September 9th?
The budget meeting's still at the, at the 12th, as scheduled. But the second meeting in the month where the RFQ talks about the district responding on August 26th, we're not going to have a quorum at that meeting on August 26th. Because you're away, Ken's away, I'll be away. So I'm suggesting that we change that date to September 9th.
And I will be out of the country on September 9th.
Okay,
Well, not quite, but, I mean, I guess I have an evening flight that night, so I guess
Depends
I
on
could
from where.
participate in the morning.
From Tampa?
No, from New York. I leave from New York.
Okay.
And, yeah, so the 26th, you're out of the country, Rich?
yes.
Hmm.
Now, what we could do on September 9th is have it as the first agenda item, so that wouldn't hold you up.
Okay.
Makes
But we
sense.
Yeah,
still,
I could work that. My flight's not till 5:30, and so I probably don't have to leave here until, I could probably do the whole meeting, actually.
So does mine.
okay, now, you're available on the 9th? You
I'm
available on the
available.
9th? I'm available on the 9th.
Yeah.
So we'll have a quorum.
Yeah, we have a quorum.
So what you're saying is switching that meeting to the 9th, and then we have to change the RFQ.
Yes,
Change the date on it, yes,
Yeah,
because,
okay.
that works.
everybody okay with that?
Yeah. That's fine. I do have a question about the 12th though, because Belinda specifically asked that I come back on August 12th for the
Right.
budget hearing. And I think it's because she wanted just more supervisors present. Is that the case? Does anyone know?
Well, she wanted to make sure there's a quorum. That's important.
Okay.
And the time constraint to get it all out,
Yeah,
I believe is the,
had you planned on flying back for that?
I was gonna fly back for that one, yeah.
I think Ken said he might too, right, Ken?
I could if I need to.
If you need to, okay. So I'm
I mean,
here,
I'm happy to come back
Okay.
for that one. That's
12th of
fine.
August 12th.
You're up in the,
Well, you'll have a quorum.
we'll have 4 here.
Yes, I could call in.
okay, the 9th, the 12th will work, one way or another.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
What else?
Well, can we back up though? Are we having the meeting on the 22nd of July or not? We haven't decided. We'll wait until we get to the end of the
We
meeting.
haven't decided, and
Okay,
I think I'm coming back that afternoon. That's from Connecticut.
okay. All right. So I had a couple other things on my list. I wanted to ask, I guess it's a Ken and potentially Julie question, about Jonas. As we go into Jonas, and I know we've officially launched as of July 1st, is there still, I'm just curious, I know we're gonna be doing some work on the RFID data cleanup. Are we doing the same thing with resident cleanup, or has it been done already in terms of, people who don't live here anymore who still have access to get into the pool, et cetera? Is that happening or happened?
We were able to clean out the whole system, and so we did not have to go where everyone had to get re-registered or anything like that. That never ended that other discussion about, definition of residency.
No, it's.
Yeah, so that was a kind of a separate entity. It's in our report for Jonas. The next step for Jonas is the website. So someone might say, hey, when's the website catching up? But they can't launch and then do the website.
But just so I'm clear though, before we leave my question, which is, we know there were people who had cards to get in at the pool gate who don't live here anymore. Well, what's happened with that?
Right, well, that's been, as far as I know, and we have one more cleanup to do, that has absolutely been rectified.
Okay.
So if someone hadn't used, and Keith, gave us a list with the help, if someone hadn't used a card in over a year, then that card was eliminated. So now if you were away for a year, you might come and say, my card's not working, and then we would say, hey, we need to re-up on what
Okay.
you've done,
So,
so.
and I'm thinking about the people who used to
I
own the
know,
Henry
yes,
Ranch.
and they've never responded to us either, so,
That's,
exactly, so, for example,
What
they're,
about someone who does use the card? They're not gonna get caught in the non-use, and they're still gonna have an active card, even though
Exactly.
they don't live here.
what are we doing about that?
the which one?
Yeah, that's still possible.
Yeah, so if you have somebody who left a year ago, they don't live here anymore, but they're still using, we know that's happening. What are we doing about that?
Right,
Or are we?
no, we're not doing anything about that now.
We ought to try to clean up, Julie, the database for that purpose by maybe comparing it to the POA database,
Mhm.
Yes,
the directory database.
that is the plan, we have that plan, once we finish, as of last week, Jonas is implemented now, so that was the big thing. But that's the plan now, is to compare it to the POA, and then Teresa, as we talked about that, Teresa's gonna do that. We have an employee that's absolutely gonna be responsible to do that, because it will take a couple of days to cross-reference that.
Okay.
But
So
yeah,
that's gonna happen.
yes,
Oh, yeah,
sir.
that was really good.
But I can give you a date. We'll figure out the date.
Okay. And then the other, subject I just wanted to get to you all on is I had a couple things on the budget. I guess the first thing, and I think I may have mentioned this either Julie to you or to Ricardo, that for the, in advance of the budget meeting, I personally would very much like to get, and maybe the others would like to get, a list of the outside events that have been scheduled so far. So that we know what we're looking at, because I think, you all know my concerns about that we've got a very aggressive revenue target for next fiscal year, and I think it's sort of leading into the next thing I wanted to say, which is, having that, I think, will help Bernardo get off onto the right foot in terms of, what he's looking at in terms of, things that need to get done. I think, I don't know whether we're ready to do it today. I'm prepared to talk about it, but I think I would love to see us give Bernardo, the 2 or 3 top things that we want him, to focus on when he comes in. So, because ideally you can think about that before you come in. I think for me, it's, the stability / continuity. We know already we've got a pretty good result with the staff, so I think there's the continuity piece. There's the revenue piece, which frankly, I am very concerned about the revenue targets for next year. So that's marketing and planning and staffing in case, with costs and everything, how that hangs together. And then I think for me, the third thing is reporting. I think the board really needs to be simpatico with management on, how are we doing every month? What does that mean? What are we doing about it? Et cetera, just so I think we all have a good comfort level. So sort of from a 15,000 foot view, that's what I'm thinking. I don't know how we iterate that as a board, but I wanted to just throw that out there.
We did, just to kind of answer a little bit. So Bernard thankfully is here today. His official start date is August 1st, so he's here today, so he can absolutely, start to, assimilate into some of the things. He has a copy of the survey. He will be studying that. Because it's so much at once, Vesta is absolutely dedicated to, increasing the revenue with the outside events, and has given me the responsibility to work with trees because now Therese has a solid group that works under her 2 supervisors to do a grassroots effort to increase revenue. So we certainly can provide a list. It's very few outside events coming up, but I have a lot of confidence, Therese, between the residents and then outside events, that we will do a grassroots marketing effort, because marketing in general is so incredibly expensive, but if we do a few calls to I'll give you an example, like Sarasota Hospital, like any of the few things, and then get residents as well. So we just recently got an event for the Rotary through one of the residents, so that's great. So I think a combination, that's kind of what the plan of action is, and then we'll, obviously present it to Bernard, but because there's so much for him to start with,
Yes.
we just felt like that, is kind of a little bit of a side thing that I could certainly help with, Therese directly, and then present it to Bernard, to help push forward, because we want to meet that revenue number, and I really believe we can. But it takes a little bit, and that's what Therese and I are kind of now in the process of, so that is what's going on.
Just Joe?
Yes.
And Julie, to add to that, we've been looking at 3 years of private event sales reports. And when you see the details of that, you see all of the various organizations that had regular luncheons and meetings, and dinners at the club. And that in itself is a pretty good tool to start recontacting those people to get back on the books.
Yeah.
Where we're still in the process of going through those sales reports for the purposes of understanding the revenue makeup. But clearly, in fiscal 22, we had about $170,000 of outside revenue, possibly more when we get through some of the details. That dropped in 23 to under 100,000, and in 24, at least through May, it was less than 40,000. So there's an opportunity to pick up, 100,000 plus by reestablishing, and hopefully we can get some of those groups back to their regular monthly, quarterly meetings and dinners, luncheons.
Yeah.
Thanks,
I think
Ken.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think, Ken, what Julie and I had something of a lengthy discussion, because, thinking about, there are the big events, but at the same time, some of the Rotary type things can help us offset fixed costs. They may not be in and of themselves, they're incrementally beneficial as opposed to,
Right, but you'd be surprised, so if you get one, a lot of the people that belong to one of those organizations belong to 3 more.
Sure.
So they all do some kind of event, so if you could get multiple, and then sprinkle in 3 great weddings, you can really meet the number. And Teresa's even talking to a vendor to do like a cookie with the logo on it, so we could do a sales call, and then we have a new regional lifestyle person in our region. His name is Steven, and you'll meet him at the next meeting. Heather is relocating to St. Croix. Love her. But so that'll be quite helpful, because he'll go and do some of these sales calls for us. So again, just getting some of the connection, but we do want to also get the residents as well, because we know they belong to groups. So we want to piggyback on that as well, and hopefully have a program, something to get residents, to encourage them to bring their group here as well. So, and Ken, they will obviously all be with a pro forma and a financially sound event.
Yeah.
Just want to throw that in there.
The other upside, and I appreciate your concern over the budget, because I think we all have the same concern.
Yeah.
But the other significant upside that the survey presented was our lack of to-go business.
Yes.
And the opportunity that presents, because I think there's a big upside. We just don't market it well, and there's an opportunity there.
We need a pizza oven.
Outside pizza, I agree.
We're talking to
He said
Brian.
that, yeah.
I think he's got a spot, yeah. Okay, well, thank you. Julie, I think that sounds like a great plan, because I've been thinking about, I have my own list for Bernardo, and it's like, oh no, it's gone to the second page.
Just so you know, we didn't run everything by Bernard yet. I mean, we just went over, but he's definitely understanding all of it, so.
Oh my God, thank you.
Thank you.
Is he participating in Jonas training?
Pardon?
I have not yet.
Not yet. We have to learn it and then it will be easy to teach it.
But we already, the company already has a plan, we have a plan, but, Bernard came today to be part of this, but we didn't really go into everything yet with him, just out of all fairness. We will.
How's it going with the staff in terms of their training?
Yes.
How is it going?
Good,
Going
yeah,
well?
Going good.
Okay.
It's going good.
Okay.
great,
Good.
actually.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Both of my supervisors are learning and they are teaching it well to the staff.
Okay.
So a lot easier of a system, but just, something new that you have to learn off a little.
Is all of the hardware here?
Pardon me?
All of the hardware necessary, is it here?
Correct, and there's,
Yeah.
and if anyone's interested, later on, we can show you the kitchen display system and do a test so you can see how it works. I mean, really state of the art, really great for the operation and for the team. So, yeah.
2 POSs out at the Tiki Bar.
Okay.
Mhm. Tablets to be at someone's lounge chair to take their order,
Can
and
I order
then
from my
it
phone?
automatically pops up in the kitchen,
Not yet.
so it's great.
Okay.
Cool.
So, come in for dinner, walk me through it. What happens? Server comes over.
They will take your order,
Mhm.
they'll punch it in the computer, there's 2 in the server area here, 2 in the bar, and 2 outside of the tiki. It'll pop up in the kitchen, and then it's got these ways it works, like a noise, bing, pops up, you have an order, you look at the order, and then you work on the order, you tap it twice when it's done, you can recall it, so if there was an issue. So it's really, great. We absolutely, think that it's gonna be absolutely great to the operation, especially when it's busy, it's organized. And then as Ken has been discovering through some of the reports, the system is specific, and we will absolutely have a binder. Not only does Jonas have all the training online, and that'll be what some of the things Bernard does, but also we'll have a binder so anyone who comes in can understand how it was set up. So Ken would tell you that with some of the sales analysis you do, in the past 5 years, they were maybe ringing stuff up a little mixed up, right? So this will be absolutely specific. Therese is giving her guidance, and then there will be something to follow. So the operation has this Bible per se that says this is how we ring up catering sales under events. So events is, so there's a much more logical way that it's done and organized. And Jonas is state of the art for the clubs. So almost, many clubs use Jonas. So they are, they have it all tell us, like we tell them what our problem is. They're like, yes, you do this, you do that. So now is going to the website, which is the next step, which is going to be really important, because then the website will have a new, fresh look to it. New pictures, if you look at the website, it's the old furniture from the pool, probably from, the beginning. I mean, so it'll be, I think, a really fresh way to start them with the website as well. But it takes getting this part, and now the next part is the website.
So just a quick logistical question, because I'm thinking about the tiki bar, because it's such a long hike for food. When, let's say the 4 hamburgers that are going to table 2 at the bar are done, ding, ding, I'm in the kitchen and the order's complete, it's on the pass. Is the server notified? How does that, is there a system in place that alerts the server? I guess is a yes or no?
Yeah, what it is there's a runner. So
Okay.
typically there's a runner. So
So
the
the runner
runner,
goes back.
so if the server's out on the pool deck, I mean, it really depends. If it's not that busy, the server might go back to the kitchen and
I
get the
see.
food. There might not be a runner. You might not have that
So
labor.
it's still a human, it's not.
But when it's
Okay.
busy, yeah, you still have, a runner is the one that, goes and gets the food and delivers it to the location. So lounge chair 10 or table
Okay.
12, you know,
Okay.
depending on what it is.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
system doesn't tell the server when the
Or
food
the
is
run,
done. We
yeah.
still have to be in their presence.
I see, okay.
And we have walkie-talkies that we do,
I
you know,
see.
have the conversation back and forth.
Okay.
Bartender out at the tiki bar can sit there and talk to one of the supervisors or the food runner to let them know
I see.
what's going on. We're still a work in progress, but we've come a long ways.
Okay, following up on Rich's scenario. We walk in, you walk in, you have 30 people with you. Okay, can that system accommodate it, or will it all of a sudden crash or efficiently handle it? Because I've seen if you have a large crowd, you come in, people sit around, and it's mass confusion. What does Jonas do to eliminate or to productivity wise, what does it do?
With a large group, it still comes down to, for us, training our servers. There's not gonna be any way to expedite fast everything unless you have limited menus. But if everybody is coming in, ordering something separate from a menu, we are training our staff to do it per seat, per couple, per whatever, and so that we are separating it that way. It helps the kitchen, to be a little more organized, to see what's going on. They're not gonna lose a ticket. They can see what needs to be made. But once again, it's not going to make the food get made any faster, but it will make the kitchen aware of how long that ticket has been hanging there or how long that order has been in, and it gives them guidelines of when to fire things and when to get things going.
It does not take away the human element. I mean,
No.
there is that, but that's where it comes into play where, you know, these two managers, a supervisor says, hey, we just got 20 people. They're out there. So everyone needs to be cross-trained as well in the system and in the operation itself. So you shouldn't be surprised if you see, you know, a manager running food or getting an order or clearing a table. Though, you know, we had a resident very surprised and thinking we were like short and we don't have enough people. I said, no, just helping out here. You know, so it does, you still have the human element, but it's more efficient, I think. So I think it helps with efficiency. What do you say?
It's a work in progress, as you say, and there's gonna be some fine tuning. And the way you describe it, I understand it fully. I felt that was exactly what it was gonna be, and it looks like it's gonna work.
Yeah, and I think we're blessed now that we've seen in the last definitely year and a half is when you have some steady staff, that's really what the key is.
That's right.
When you're rotating staff or you have to use temps because you just don't have any human beings, I mean, it's a struggle, but when you have steady staff, you see, I mean, I don't know how many of you know Anthony, but wow, the guy has grown from, you know, unbelievable. What a fantastic employee. So that I think is part of it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Board, we're coming up on
Can we
9:30.
look at the Ken's updated letter before the workshop is over?
Did he send it?
He sent it,
I
we don't
did.
have it in our email. I just looked at it.
Well,
Let me go print it off.
what time is it? Is it
9:25.
Right.
We're gonna have to wrap this part of it up, for right now, Cheryl, and get the meeting started on time. So we can certainly review the letter at the meeting, but I don't know if we can do it right now because of the time constraint.
At the meeting is fine. I just
Okay.
think there needs to be something about landscaping in the first section, so I can talk about that later.
Okay,
Okay, cool.
okay. All right then, so shall we,
2 second pause.
We are at the Venetian River Club, located at 502 Benito Boulevard, North Venice, Florida, 34275. My name is Greg Cox, by the way. I'm filling in today for Belinda. And today, present and constituting the quorum, we have Rich Bracco, Ernest Booker,
Present.
Ken Smaha.
Yes.
Okay, you still there, Ken?
Ken, you're there, right?
I am.
He
Okay,
is.
and Jill Lazarek.
Oh, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm sure.
And Belinda's not here. Again, my name is Greg Cox. We have Andy Cohen here representing District Council. We have Rick Shapaker representing District Engineer. Keith Livermore is our field manager. And Julie Cortina, did I get that right? Investa Property Services. And I don't know who else is present for the meeting normally. Any names that I've missed?
LMP,
I'm sorry?
LMP.
LMP.
And Greg, we also have,
And Cheryl Harmon Tarana.
Thank you, Cheryl. Sorry, thank you, Cheryl. Board member, LMP, who's with LMP? We have,
Bill Gibb and Chris Berry.
Bill Gibbons. Anybody else I've missed that's normally part of the roll call?
John Fowler.
John Fowler, thank you. Hey, John.
Sections.
And anyone else? Okay, thank you. Mr. Bracco, I understand you'd like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
sir. Please remove your hats. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Greg, before we go further, let's get a motion to allow Ken and Cheryl to vote and participate virtually.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
This is a motion to, as Andy said, to allow board members Cheryl to participate along with Ken. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. We'll now go ahead and open the floor for public comment. I'd like to remind everybody, please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less if you would. I've got a list here of folks that wish to provide comment, and the first one is Cindy Snezik.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, great.
Yes.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
I wanted to, I wanted to address both the new Jonas system and the residency issue, since the two go hand in hand. The new Jonas system was implemented effective July 1st. I'm glad to see that we're migrating to a newer technology to help improve our financial tracking as well as our ability to track residents' trends. I'm hopeful that Vesta and our Board of Supervisors are immersed in ensuring that the data transferred from the old Club Essential system to Jonas was scrubbed, and we are working with a clean starting point. We all know that it doesn't make sense to take dirty laundry and put it in the clean clothes pile. Having said that, this would be the board's opportunity to address the residency concerns in the community by having all residents reapply for our amenities. This discussion is specific to resident numbers only. Our legal counsel has previously recommended that we move cautiously regarding our requirements for member resident access. Our counsel stated that we could have legal issues with asking for information such as government ID or warranty deed for proof of ownership residency here at the Venetian. I would like to give 2 examples of CDDs that I found on the Florida CDD website that are counseled by Person, Cohen, and Mooney, PA. The first one is Cypress Creek of Hillsborough County CDD. All the amenities fall under CDD jurisdiction. Per their policy, residents that are homeowners will need to provide staff with a current driver's license, and then the staff will use the county's tax roll to confirm that information. The second CDD is Meadow Point 2. Those amenities also fall under CDD jurisdiction. Their procedure for obtaining a clubhouse identification card is as follows. Member owner must complete a clubhouse identification card application at the district. Each applicant must prove if they are a member owner, provide identification with an address within the district or other proof of residency. Proof of residency is limited to a picture ID issued by city, state, or federal agencies with an expiration date and one of the following: a Florida voter registration card, Florida vehicle registration or title, or a utility bill. As these two CDDs, of which our council is also their council, why are we receiving one direction and being told we cannot require proof of home ownership when it's happening at other CDDs? These are just two examples. There are many other CDDs with different councils that are applying for these residency rules and policies. Almost all residents at BGRC would agree that anyone getting access to our amenities should have to prove ownership. We pay for these amenities. No one should get them for free because they don't live here. With Jonas, now is a critical time to get the data correct while the whole system is running in parallel. I request that the board dig deeper into this, and if possible, I'd like to hear from our council as to why we don't have the same policies that these other two CDDs have. Why were we steered away from implementing these policies?
Thank you, Cindy.
All right, next we have Dr. Michael Dukes. Yes, sir.
Good morning. My name is Michael Dukes of 241 Montalina. I'm here this morning to address a rumor regarding our security guard, Chris Fenton, that I heard his job might be in jeopardy over the weekend. I don't know if it's a rumor or not. I certainly hope it is. I know that Chris, basically, those folks have a tough job. We have been here, my wife and I are 13-year full-time residents of the Venetian. We've never had an issue with Chris, or for that matter, any of the security guards. I've never had a vendor or guest tell me they've ever had any encounters that were not, pleasant at the gate in 13 years. I know that when we first arrived, he was already here, so I know he has longevity. And I can remember when Chris worked the night shift, he often would call me with small things like your garage door is still open, which I greatly appreciated. The point being is he takes the job serious. I would certainly hate, if the rumor is true, and I hope it's not, but if it is, I would certainly hate to see a gentleman lose his job of 14 years over an encounter with an irate resident. Well, this, of course, is very serious, and I don't know the details. I'm talking out of school on that point, but I do know this: it's a thankless job, and those guys have it tough. You can't please everyone all the time. You can't keep everyone happy all the time. So, that's my short little speech. I can only speak for my wife and I because, I've never had anything but pleasant experiences with the guards, including Chris. So that's my story. On a side note, I have a note that Chris gave me today to ask me if I would present it to you all. I've got it here. It's his copy. You're welcome to read it among yourselves. It's totally up to you. If you'd like it, I have it. He asked me to give it to you. So if you want it, it's up to you. Y'all can review it among yourselves.
Yep.
Okay?
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Dr. Dukes.
Thank you very much. Next we have Tim Schimberg.
Thank you. I just have two quick questions. Before the last board meeting, I brought it to the attention that the sidewalk back here was a dangerous situation. And you quickly marked it and said that somebody would be addressing it within the next few days. Now we're at the next meeting and I haven't seen anybody, so I'm looking for an update.
Yeah, I think we have them.
Good. Secondly, I want to mention, and this may be old news, but I drive a motorcycle. I usually always go out of the back gate, but I went out of the front gate. This is a while back. And gate doesn't open. So all of a sudden cars start piling up behind me and I can tell they're not happy with me. Some guy pokes his head out of that I don't know, out of the guard house and says, "What are you doing?" He says, "You can't go out of that gate." I'm going like, I don't know, what, is there a sign somewhere, something I don't know about? I'm supposed to be clairvoyant or whatever, I don't know. So I asked him, I said, can you open the gate for me? Because there's people piling up behind me. So he opens the gate and I drive through. On my return, I come back and I see that Chris is in the guardhouse, which I know very well. So I pull over to the guardhouse and I said, Chris, I says, this is what just happened to me. What was this all about? And he said that, well, there was a flood. And that gate doesn't work for vehicles that aren't like full-size cars. And my question would be, has that been addressed? Or has that information been passed on to anybody so that we know to avoid that gate? Thank you.
Had never heard of that. When I was riding, I went in and out of that gate all the time on a motorcycle.
It would not open no matter what I did. And he told me it's not working right because it was flooded out and that side doesn't work.
Okay, thank you.
We have Darlene Shimbley.
It's okay. I'm used to being called that.
It says Darlene.
I'll stand up so you can see. I wanted to bring up a point that I brought up in the past, and that is the fact that I don't think it is appropriate for the entire community to be paying for the tennis pro. I think that that is a burden that should be handled by the tennis community. Tennis is our amenity, but having a pro here is an extra amenity to have. And frankly, to be very honest, I don't see the need for it in this community. So if we are going to continue, I've never received a response to my request before. And that's one of the things I'm going to discuss, not only in this meeting, but in our meeting as well, the POA meeting, is that when we have homeowners and the homeowners come up and they take the time to speak with you and tell you their feelings and what's going on and what's happening, I think it would be respectful if somehow they would get a response to what they discussed. It hasn't been done in the past. I don't know if it can be done in the future, but I think it's something that we need to look at, because I think that's the reason why a lot of people don't bother to come, because they say, why bother? They're not going to do anything about what I say anyway, which I don't think is true at all. But, you know, having been on the POA board now and seeing what you all go through, I know that you care about what we say. I just don't know that we get any kind of update or backup to what was asked about. So thank you.
Thanks, Norman. Often the things that are brought up in public comment are discussed in the supervisor's comments later on in the meetings.
Thank you, Rich Goodman.
Going to be short today. I'm just concerned about the financials, especially on the F&B side. Through May, we're down sales about $80,000. And the gross profit is down about $86,000 overall through May. June sales are about $45,000, which means that our expenses are running a little bit higher than average. So if you extrapolate that out to the end of the year, we could be looking at a $100,000 loss over subsidy, if not more, by September. I think we should look at this, address it, try to figure out something short-term to get more people into the dining room, or look at a way to cut costs, because $100,000 in food and beverage beyond subsidy is a big number. We do make it back up on the CDD side, some extra wages and whatever. So it doesn't affect the overall budget, but it does affect the F&B budget. I also want to thank Dr. Dukes and Cindy for what they said. I agree wholeheartedly.
Thank you, Rich.
Thank you. Bill Kelly.
Bill?
He was here. Oh, Bill Kelly. Let's go to Steve Thomason.
Good morning, everyone. I'm not sure this is working.
I think you're loud enough.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, all right, thank you.
Can I get this, put it to the record, please? Sorry.
Just want to let you know, I was at the neighborhood meeting maybe a week ago that one of the board members from the POA set up. And I listened to the discussion the couple had in regards to your encounter with Chris at the front gate. And the way they described it, I honestly, since I've known Chris in 16, it was totally out of content for him at all. And at that meeting, the majority of the folks there did not agree with the assessment that those people had, said they never had a problem at all with or anything like that. Now, I do know, because I stop and talk to Chris occasionally, that he's going through a lot of problems with his family. His wife is very sick in the emergency room last week, and he's under a lot of pressure. But as Dr. Duke said, it's a very thankless job. I've done it before out there. I did it previously in my community in Jacksonville. So please consider that when you're making the decision in regards to asking Victory to either let him go or transfer him. Second off, I agree with Tim. That sensor on the right-hand side of the exit quit working for motorcycles about a year ago. I've had the same experience trying to beat my horn because my bike would not fit through the side where between the curb there. And the guy looked at me like, what's the problem? I go, well, the gate's not opening. So that's something that may need to be addressed. It may just be a sensitivity that needs to be adjusted on there to that though. But otherwise, we love the community. We've been coming up here to the River Club much more often now. And we have always had very, very pleasurable experiences up here. The staff, like you said this morning, Anthony has come a long way in his professionalism up here and everything. And the other servers have been very great. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. That's the last name I have on the list. Is there anyone else that has arrived since the list got turned in? Needs to make a comment. Sir? Yes, sir. Your name, sir?
Yeah, my name is Richard Whitman, and I live at 151 Sevilla Place in Padova. And I just wanted to second and third the things that people said about Chris, and I agree with them wholly. I've known Chris since I moved in April of 17, and I have not known Chris to be rude or disrespectful to people. I do know that, Chris could be loud, a little bit loud, because that's the way he speaks. And I know that he's very, he's very concerned about his job, and when he addresses his job, it's usually the rules that we in the neighborhood would like everybody to adhere to. But not once have I ever known Chris to be rude or arrogant or disrespectful to anybody in the neighborhood. He's just about his job and adhering to the rules. And he does a well job. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just as an overall comment, it would be inappropriate to discuss personnel issues from Allied. Chris has been, if you didn't know it, reassigned to another community. It is in fact closer to his house from what I'm told, but we have no employees. So the individual vendors, Allied as an example, it's their call as to what happens. Thank you for your comments.
And for the record, I just want to know, we did receive a copy of the letter from Chris that we'll attach to the minutes. Also received a separate letter from Timothy Carr that wished to provide comments that we'll also provide to the minutes.
Okay.
For the board decision.
Thank you, Greg.
Yeah.
I see, yeah.
So with that, we'll move on to staff reports. Landscape and inspection service report is at tab 1 of your agenda. And we have Mr. John Fowler here.
Morning, John.
Morning. So I'm gonna go over just real quickly my inspection for May 31st. The majority of this is typical things this time of year. Once the rains start with weeds and with pruning. I have gotten the responses, and a lot of the pruning is scheduled for next week, just so you guys are aware of that. Pictures number 2 and 6 are just pictures of large weeds growing up in viburnum on Laurel Road. And also in the response, it says this will be taken care of next week. One thing that I do want to comment on, and something that we might need to do, is the removal of pygmy date palm close to the pool where the golf carts park. That's been in decline for a while now. I'm not quite sure what has affected it. I know they have treated it several times. Maybe it's the soil there, but something is causing that not to thrive. So I've asked for a proposal for that to be removed and to put in a different type of species there, some kind of small ornamental tree or something.
If it's something that's in the soil, like, what is it, Scleroderma or whatever?
Ganoderma, I don't think it's that, but I will ask LMP and see if they can have, they do have arborists on staff that can assess it. And I agree with you, if it's something soil bound, you don't want to put another palm there.
John, while you're on that area, I thought that I think this is triple foxtail out there, and it looks to me like it's not happy either. So I was wondering if it was something like Fusarium wilt.
It could be, and again,
And that's contagious, right? So
it is, and I'll ask again, LMP, they do have an on-staff arborist to look at that, they can send in soil samples.
Okay.
It's not something that normally affects foxtails, but it affects, most palms can be affected obviously by it, but they seem to be a little more resistant than other palms, like your queen palms and things like that. But like you said, we do want to get on top of it and make sure, so I'll ask them to have an arborist look at it and get some soil samples. Also, picture number 69, just pointing out a dead awabuki there. Off of Sarah Drive, right next to Sedona Way, that's gonna need to be removed. With the rains, I have noticed a lot of the viburnum have popped up, the newly installed viburnum. There still are a couple missing and a couple that need to be replaced out there, so pointing that out as well. And then I can answer any questions you might have on this report.
There's a note in here about the pitch apple and
Yes.
evening them out. The ones that are at the far end of the parking lot, we really don't want to cut those down. We want to keep them.
Yeah, the only thing I would want to do is just train them, just to tip prune them, to get them all even, and so they come in full, because, so they don't get leggy. So it
Okay.
is good to prune them, but not prune them hard.
Okay. Thank you, John.
Sure thing.
John, the only other thing was the jewel palm that's in the median, right here in front of the clubhouse does have cameras. So
Okay.
Keith is aware of that.
Okay. So that's gonna have to be removed. A palm's not gonna be able to be
Back up.
back. Yes.
Okay, so that tree is going to have to come down, Chris?
Yes.
you have to actually dig the stump out, don't you?
I've got a bit going.
Yeah. I had a couple things. So, you know, the shell ginger number 50, you know, I know we're talking about potentially different species. I guess probably that's something that might have to wait for the request for qualification and onward work there. I don't know whether you have an opinion on the Schefflera and the Portofino buffer that's been completely demolished by the deer, but I don't know whether we need to just get rid of it or replace it with something else, or.
I would suggest something else. There is deer repellent that you could put out there. I don't know how much success they've had, because I know they've at the large roundabout median.
Yeah.
With the last species of plant, they had an issue with that as well.
Yeah.
The problem with that is deer repellent is something you have to keep applying and applying and
3
applying.
weeks, yeah.
So I would suggest possibly a different species
Okay.
there that is a little more resistant to deer eating it.
I wish we could find one because they seem to like everything we put out.
I can do some research and
Metal.
see if there's something.
Metal.
Yeah. Bogey
Plastic. They do eat everything. I mean, around everybody's house as well. You can't stop them.
No, but I don't think you want to get rid of them either, because they have.
Ernest wants to get rid of them.
Oh, yeah. They're tall rats.
Yeah, they're like rats with wings.
They're tall rats.
On that, we disagree.
And I will say that I'm here to help you guys, so any advice above and beyond that you guys would like with different type of plants and stuff like you just asked, I'm here to help.
Okay. Thank you, John.
Sure.
Thanks, John.
No problem.
We're going to go on to district engineer. We have Rick Schapper. Rick.
Yeah, first off, I wanted to talk about the sidewalk out here. Yes, I I was out there the next day to paint it up. We reached out to a vendor who thought he had availability. This particular vendor we use quite a bit. He's really, really good about addressing the emergencies. If we had broken the pipe, he'll stop whatever, he'll come out. Well, unfortunately, there was a priority to come up. Last week was very, very tough to get vendors to do much of anything because a lot of them have skeleton crew for the 4th of July. But he told me he'd be here tomorrow.
Okay.
So please let me know if he's not.
Okay.
Do I need to repaint that?
No.
It's still good. It's fine. Okay. Okay. The fountains, we've had the price for the fountains for quite some time. The unknown is to running the electricity. Miles was trying to handle that. I understand they are redoing the parking lot lights, so he's working with that vendor. The southwest light, he wants to make sure there's a way to connect from there and run it down. That's the pole that makes the most sense. So he's hoping to get something in a few weeks on the parking lot lights, I think is what he told me. So so that's what we're waiting on. As far as the fountain itself, we had the bids. Solitude was $7,946. Cross Creek was $7,810. So they're pretty close. I mean, just under 8,000. And typically we're finding prices for electricity somewhere in the $5,000 range.
Okay.
So we're probably looking at somewhere around 13,000.
Okay. So we'll wait to hear from Miles and see what he comes up with.
What kind of depth do we need on a pond to run a fountain?
Not much.
Is that pond deep enough?
Yeah, I believe so. Right now it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. 3 weeks ago, yeah, but I believe it is. So I know that they don't have to be deep. I mean, they're surface. So now the bad thing about fountains though is when they do spray and the wind's blowing, it tends to help it dry up. So
We shut ours off and, for months because of the dry weather. So.
and again, I mean, we could have it off for the evening because we're really trying to hide the noise. So
The evening's when the noise is most pronounced, though. I can tell you that.
I guess I meant the night.
Playing pickleball in the evening.
Until about 9 o'clock, yeah.
But it's set on a timer anyway, right? The fountain?
Sure, yes. Yeah, you could definitely control that, yes.
So the two bids you reviewed, are they similar as it relates to the quality of the fountain?
We told them what make, model, and all that. So yes, that they are they are the same.
And Solitude, we've used only Solitude before, or have we used the other company?
Cross Creek has done these in quite a few communities. So I mean, but again, the fountain is the same.
Fountain is the same.
Right. And I know Solitude is your vendor right now. I don't know if you're gonna, I think you were looking.
They're month to month right now. Yeah, they're month to month.
Right.
So,
Well, do we want to talk about this further, or you want to wait until we get a price on electric, or what do you want to do?
I think we should move forward with it because we hear the same complaints and problems every meeting.
Well, there's other issues here aside from sound. There's the issue of the bugs, the mayflies or whatever. The moving water is going to help us with keeping that pond healthy, I'm sure.
You got 60 ponds.
yes, I mean, it does help. water quality, definitely.
We've had fish kills in that pond, I know that for sure, especially when it gets really hot. So
I know on this side, you got a lot of the bulrush, which I don't like bulrush just because it would be ugly, but, but it does a good job of purifying. But as far as the residents, it's probably the ugliest aquatic plant.
I hear a lot of that.
Well, I had Joe Scalina, from the RACA committee sent me, I think he's on RACA, sent me an email, because we're due to talk about noise later, but my sense from the digging around that's been done with the Sarasota pickleball folks, is that it's the most likely thing to help is going to be landscaping and not more landscaping or more mature landscaping and not fountains. So I'm very reluctant. I think personally, this is just for my fellow supervisors. I'm not at all in favor of just throwing more money at something, not being sure if it's going to work. We've already spent plenty of money on the pickleball courts right now, and I think we should do some more investigation. That's my view.
Well, putting more landscaping on the right side, to match the left side would be, to your point, of, getting that, that noise knocked down a little bit in that area as well, so it would match the left side, but it was also help with the noise factor as well. So, and it's closer.
Well, because my experience, I'm really far away. I'm 400 yards away, and my lanai happens to face this way. So I think if your lanai doesn't face this way, you don't necessarily hear it. And I don't always hear it. I think it's a combination of wind and humidity and whatever else.
Equipment.
I know. I have to say, I've talked to some pickleball experts, and it's really a minor thing. So I just feel like we need to do some more digging before we drop money. But again, that's just my opinion.
Aesthetically, to put more landscaping on that side would balance the whole look. Because we have those pitch apples, which seem to be really thriving and doing a very, very nice job. To make it even, put them on the other side.
Yeah, the apple in the median is really thriving. The pitch apple along the edge, it's still shaded by the trees, so it's not growing. But once it grows up, I mean, those are very good plants, and I know there's really two different plants that people like to utilize to help with the noise, and the apple is right up there. Mm-hmm. So.
Well, we can hold off on this a bit. And, first, we get a price on electricity. Can it be done? And it isn't something that needs to be done immediately.
If nothing else, then we'll make sure that that pole on the end is available for us to connect to. So we'll make sure that we have a little outlet or whatever it would take from there.
Right. Let's get a definite answer on that before I'm good with that.
Can we follow up with the landscaping that's been suggested?
Want get an estimate?
Go.
Yes.
Okay. I think.
And
LNB
we're
is
with
gone.
Lauren, the young lady that's a landscaping specialist that plays pickleball. She volunteered.
Oh, Lauren Wooten?
That's a resident, though. She does insurance. I'm not sure.
No, I'm just saying I'm not requesting that we engage her services.
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying she could assist us. Obviously.
Okay. Let's get a quote on doing the other side.
Okay. Yeah.
And then the last thing is the pickleball, the pavers, the brick pavers were ordered June 2nd or somewhere around there. And it was like a 10-week delivery. So as soon as they come in, we can, we'll let that up out there.
We'll establish the look then. And so we're talking about prior to Labor Day, hopefully.
One could hope.
Yeah, for those watching.
And that's all I had.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Any questions for Rick? Thank you, Rick.
Oh, one quick question, Rick, sorry, you know me.
Yep, you missed it.
Actually, somebody joked with me at the golf course about that. I would say, one quick question. How are we doing with, is everything sorted out now with the asphalt vendor? Is all the cleanup done and we've paid them, do you know?
I believe we paid them, but there's always the 12-month, I think our documents are 18 months, so. Keith, have you gotten any complaints?
Other than what was initial, but no, they came back and cleaned up as best they could, you know, some of the chunks and some of those things that were more of a hazard than aesthetically looking, but they cleaned a lot of those up, and, you know, a lot of that tar that is just a matter of some time of wearing out, you know, bleaching out, so.
A lot of the tracking, that just goes away over time.
It seems to have gone away.
The cow pies, those.
That's what I was wondering about, yeah.
Normal, right, because we did, I know Keith drove around with the guy, and because it wasn't just.
Yeah, they had a crew in here for a couple of days chipping away at those.
Right.
Any other questions for Rick? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Rick. Andy Cohen, District Council.
The only item I had is the one we have a little bit further down the agenda on the landscape architect RFQ. I don't know if you want to address it now or wait till a little bit later.
On the workshop, we discussed that the date to review.
I was wondering about that, the August 26th date,
Yeah,
whether you were planning a meeting.
We will
or
not have a quorum.
Okay.
At that point, so suggesting we push it to September 9th.
Okay.
And
We can, with that, we can also, I'll work with Rosetta, but we can expand the schedule a little because we are already worried about getting the ad in by July 14th. And everything. We're trying to keep it tight. Yeah, so September 9th?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, were there any other comments?
Well, the question that was brought up about residency, and you weren't here, I think it was Regina was here the day we
Correct.
had this.
Yes.
It's an issue that remains on a lot of people's minds. So if it's happening in two other CDDs that are represented by your firm, what's different here?
Well, every CDD, not every, but CDDs have different rules and regulations and the way that they're framed. So to apply it completely across the board, you know, is sometimes not a fair comparison. But yes, we absolutely represent Meadow Point 2 and Cypress Creek in Hillsborough County. Their amenities are not quite the same. But if it's something that the board would like me to take a further look into, I certainly can. You're right, Regina Kardash from our office, who's was present at that meeting. But if you'd like me to reopen the issue and take a closer look at some of those other communities, I'm glad to take board direction, whatever you'd like.
Well, we had a vote on that day, and it was 3-2. And I guess we would need a revote to ask you to do that. I was in favor of Regina looking into it a little bit further. Jill was as well. Because I think it's something that we need to do. Would we need to vote again on that issue?
Yes. If you took a vote, and again, I wasn't there, but if you took a vote that you did not want any further research on that issue, and if for some reason, whatever reason, maybe there's new information, you know, that was brought to our attention, whatever, you'd like.
Wouldn't the prevailing party, people that voted for someone on that, who made that motion, would have to, you know,
I think I was the one that made the
reopen
motion.
it, to move to reopen it. So,
Yeah, it was me.
Yeah.
All right.
It was me and you
According
seconded
to
it.
Robert's
Yeah,
rules.
yeah. Well, and there's a little bit of, I would just maybe add a little bit of nuance because you weren't here, is that my sense was that, the board was under the impression that there would potentially be a violation of both the Fourth Amendment of the US Constitution and a violation of the Florida Constitution right to privacy if we were to ask for such an ID, when in fact, I think as you and I discussed, the county dump asks for a license. You need to show a license to get a library card. So if there's something, I think what I would say is, if there's something different about us versus some of the ones that were cited, or the county dump at the library or whatever, then I guess we need to know. But I think that's what we need to know what's possible.
Yeah, I don't mean to interrupt,
No,
but there's certainly the potential. Again, I wasn't here, Regina was, certainly Regina and I discussed it, so I'm not acting like I don't know anything about it. There's always the potential that there could be a challenge. I'm not aware that there's ever been a challenge at Meadow Point 2 or Cypress Creek or any of the CDDs that we represent. Because if there was, we would certainly be telling you what the result of that case decision was. So there's always the potential for a challenge, but as you said, I know that there was a discussion about would you like our office to delve further into it and do further research, and the decision at the time was no. But if there's some sort of change in that, we're sort of at the pleasure of you. We're glad to take a look further into it. And
well, just one more thing is that I believe, if I remember correctly, the board was told that we weren't aware of any other CDDs where government ID was requested, and now we are aware of that. So in my personal opinion, I think that puts the onus on us to find out more about that as a board. So therefore, in my opinion, our previous vote doesn't stand.
I'm aware of communities, again, I can't speak for Regina, but I am aware of communities where ID, Rosetta maybe as well, where ID is requested for certain things. I'm aware of communities where they ask for your driver's license to enter the community. So, there's certainly no uniformity in that regard. And likewise, I am not aware of a decision, because I'm asked this frequently, whether it's at a gatehouse or use of amenities, is there, court decision on it? I'm not aware of one. There is law surrounding the subject. I know that you had a discussion about being careful about defining what the family unit is. There's the potential for challenge there.
Yeah, we know.
Andy?
Yes.
Go ahead, Ken. Just for clarity, so I think, and maybe Julie, you know or don't know, but I think when a new resident comes in and comes to the office to register, I believe we do verify that that person is a resident with an ID. I think the question that we were discussing was deeper than that, in that what constitutes a resident among the household.
Family member.
So the question became, can we go to an individual household and say, hey, we need to get proof of residency from everybody in this household to allow you to use our amenities? And the issue came up that you can't, from Regina, was that you can't single out a particular household and go and ask that. If you're going to do it, you have to do it with everyone.
I would agree with that, yeah, sure.
And that's where my objection came in, or my vote to not do it came in, because I didn't want to put the entire community through that process. I think most residents would be irked and having to do that, and having lived here for 20 years, and now I've got to prove that everybody in my household is in fact a resident. So that's where the vote came in. It wasn't that you don't ask a new resident to prove residency when they establish themselves with the office at the River Club. It's going into an individual household saying, we're gonna single you out and ask everybody in this household to prove residency and not do it for everybody.
And while I heard,
This is Cheryl, and I would totally, that's what I remember, what Ken is indicating. But in addition to that, it was also that we had no clarity on what actually would create proof of residency. So it was twofold for me, but the first was the cost of going to every single household and the reaction from the community if we did that. But second was, I think we need more clarity on, is there another example of if you provide this, or this, it proves residency? So that also went down a different track during the meeting, and so that was the reason, those are the two reasons I voted no. But if there is an opportunity to do that, I am fine with changing my vote, but it can't, those are my concerns as well.
Yeah, I think it's a fair point. And I don't think it was really talking about the family unit. I don't recall that was necessarily what it was about. It was about residency. And I have to say, I agree. If it applies to one, it must apply
Everybody.
to all. And
Everybody.
the question is, how do you do it? And I think the point that the resident who brought it before made is that Jones is the perfect opportunity to do that. You know, we had the perfect time. In fact, we discussed that during the meeting. So,
No, it's got nothing to do with Jonas. It's the gate access.
oh, it's a gate access. Sorry. Okay, sorry. It was a gate access. Okay. Yeah.
I think it's the carry system.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the question is, do we want to get further information on this subject?
right, because I also don't know, I represent these communities, absolutely, but I don't know, and I heard this nice lady quote from some information, but I don't have it in front of me, I don't know what it says or doesn't say off the top of my head.
So that really is the question. Do we want to get more information on that? And I would like to get some more information on that.
Absolutely. I agree.
I would also.
Information's
Okay,
not bad.
especially if it's represented that other communities that you represent. Bill. Now, I believe I was one of the votes to in negative votes as it relates to that. I would be willing to withdraw that vote, make a motion to withdraw.
Well, Cheryl just said the same thing.
Well, and I do too. I think it's a waste of money, but if that's the road you want to go down, because then it becomes, you've got to also have the definition, Andy, of what constitutes the household.
So if we were to, this is not an item on the agenda,
No.
we'd have to open up the
If
public comment.
someone's gonna make a motion and we're gonna take action on it, then yes, absolutely.
All right. So
All
I'll
right,
make,
so how do we do that? We open up for public comment on this one issue.
Don't we have to follow Robert's rules on that?
First of all, you have to make the motion first. As far as Robert's rules, we do not strictly follow Robert's rules. We use it as a guidepost. Our operating rules even make reference to that. But that being said, I do think someone would have to make a motion in a second, and then yes, we would have to open it up for public comment as being an off-agenda item.
Just before you do that, do we not have the vendor calling in about 4 minutes?
we do, but I don't think a motion would,
Yeah.
yeah, that's true.
We do?
Yeah,
Just
well,
saying when they-
we
they-
do, yeah, we do.
You.
Well, he does,
He can wait for 5 minutes.
he does know, yeah, I mean, I told him I would text him and let him know how we're doing. I could tell him we need another 10 minutes.
Okay, how about if we deal with this issue rather than
Let's
go
do
back
it.
and forth with it? Okay. So, I'll make a motion that we ask district council to give us further information on residency requirements. And if in fact what we can ask for to prove residencies. Does that pretty well sum it up?
And how others are doing it.
No.
Don't we have to deal with the prior motion first? The prior action?
What about the
Legal.
definition of a household?
Yes. All right, Ken is asking, what about the definition of a household? That's part of it.
I assume that's something that you would want me to provide some further information.
Because we have sort of a four corners in the rules already, but maybe we have to address that in that context.
You can have a member of the household who's not a legal resident here.
Well, this is part of the question
Yeah,
we're
that's
gonna
the
have
issue.
to address.
Yeah.
Absolutely, you can.
But don't we have to take action to reopen?
You say
that
withdraw
action? Withdraw
what was done
the
2
prior.
months ago?
Yes. From a legality.
You can, if you want to include that as
From
part
a
of your
legality point of
motion
view.
to withdraw.
Yes.
Or-
No, well, I was one of
You go,
the,
whatever, you
I
go.
said I would make a motion to reopen the action that we took. I forgot the name of the date. Forgot the time and date. March.
So,
Regarding the
can just say private.
definition and what constitutes.
Let's do it the simplest way. Let's do it the simplest way.
Well, that's what we're doing. We're going to reopen. I make a motion to reopen the motion approved by the board on March 8th regarding residency.
And to direct council
And
to do additional research and provide guidance to the board.
Yes, that's it.
Fair enough.
second.
Okay, so now,
Now we should open it up for public comment.
We had a motion from Ernest, a second from Jill.
Right.
Yes.
For that reopening of that motion. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
No, we can't do it.
We're gonna take some public comment.
My bad.
Yeah, we have to have public comments.
Gotcha.
First of all, thank you for reopening the issue. I do want to say that there is specific information about residencies within those households and who is specifically underneath the roofs. Dug into the Florida CDD website and identified more than a dozen CDDs that specify what is considered a resident, who is a resident in that household, minors, a whole list of everybody that could be listed underneath the household and considered a resident within that specific unit. So the information is out there. I dug through each of the CDD documents as I found them.
thank you, Cindy. Rich?
Yeah, I was at that meeting when you discussed it, and the two things that were never mentioned in that entire discussion was the definition of resident and definition of guest.
Right.
You defined a guest as being a guest as being somebody or a resident only by the guest definition of being able to use the facilities for 21 days straight or 42 days total. But you never actually looked at the guest definition per se, and you never discussed the resident definition. You went around talking about privacy rules, this, that, and the other thing, what constitutes a family, what about people who live up in Canada, and whatever else. We actually never mentioned the definitions. And I think if you look at the definitions, it's pretty self-explanatory as to what constitutes a resident, means living here. That was actually expressed by Regina, that they had to have, I forget the exact term.
Intent to remain.
Intent to remain, and a person who is coming and going, weekends here, nights here, whatever else, that has a residence a couple blocks away, and spends his majority of time there, does not fulfill that definition. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Darlene?
Yeah, my only comment is that if I have to show my driver's license to get a directory in this community, then I think I should have to show a driver's license or some form of ID in order to prove that I am a resident of this community with my home address being in this community.
Okay, thank you, Darlene. Any other comments? Rick?
You keep talking about driver's licenses. Half the people here have driver's licenses from other states. So you can't necessarily say you're going to use a driver's license as an identification for residency. The POA also has a list of property owners that they double check against. So that's, the driver's license is a little bit of a moot point. It's not going to help you, not going to help us.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
And what about renters, perhaps some short-term renters? How does that apply to them?
Yeah, somebody's.
Any other public comment? Make a motion, we close public comment?
We don't need,
We don't?
there's no additional public comment.
Okay.
so.
So we have a motion before us, and it's been seconded. Any other comment from the supervisors?
Yeah, I think people are missing the point. I think we do require an ID when a new family comes in and registers the household. But you're only talking about one person. So if there's a husband and wife, we don't require an ID for both of them. And if somebody picks up a directory from the POA, everybody in the household doesn't have to prove residency. It's just the one person that comes in. So we need to be broader than that. I just want people in the audience to understand the issue is much broader than just one person showing an ID to say they are the owner or live here or picking up a telephone directory. I believe, and Julie, maybe somebody can confirm, that when a new family registers for access, there is some identification required. But that's not going to solve this problem. Here we're talking about the entire household.
Okay.
I think you're right, it's the how could it be effectuated in practical terms, right, Ken?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And stay within the legal confines of Constitution. So it's a broader issue than just getting a library card or a directory.
So what we're looking to do here is to get a little bit more research done on it.
Right.
Before a final
That's
decision
fine.
is
Yep.
made.
Yep.
Okay, so any other supervisor comments? Can we call a vote?
Ready?
Okay, we have a motion, motion from Ernest, second from Jill for the reopening of the issue. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Cheryl?
Aye.
Motion
Okay.
passes.
Unanimous, okay. Shall I tell Jason we're ready?
Okay, so,
Ready to move on?
Yeah,
Yeah.
let me get the vendor to call your phone.
Unless there's any other questions on any other items under the attorney comments, and I'll talk. I think we've resolved the RFQ, but we can talk about it later down the agenda also.
okay.
Okay, I'm gonna have him call your phone then, Greg.
Thank you.
Okay.
While the vendor is, if you don't mind me jumping in here, while the vendor's, calling into Greg, this is for the audience and the board knows this. Oh yeah, thank you, Keith. If you do that, that'd be awesome. I'm gonna keep a couple up here. Keith has copies of the presentation. There is you'll see on the last page of the presentation, it shows you if you want to access the full deck of slides, if you didn't see the email. It's on the River Club website.
Hey, Jason, hold on just one second, please. Let me turn it up.
Do you have Greg copy?
Thank you.
All right, can you hear me okay?
I can. Can you hear me all right today?
Yeah, I'm trying to get the microphone here in the best place. Do me a test 1, 2, 3, please.
Test 1, 2, 3.
Okay, thank you. We're handing some information out right now, so we will start discussing it here in just a moment.
Okay. Just let me know when it's out and we're ready to get rolling.
Okay.
Ken, are you able to hear this all right?
I think so.
Cheryl, what about you? Can you hear it?
Ahead of the curve, Paul.
This mic, this could go louder. I don't know if this
Do you want to try one of these?
How about the second one?
Do another test 1, 2, 3 for you. I can try and get it a little closer to me as well.
All right, do one more.
Not too loud in the room.
No, I think they're about the same. Okay,
That one's for my indoor voice, so.
yeah, indoor voice, outdoor voice as much as possible would be helpful, but don't scream.
Okay.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah, so maybe I'll just kick it off just 5 seconds. I just want to introduce everybody to Jason. Jason Soltis from Club Insights. Jason has been working with Julie's team at the River Club to, as you know, to undertake getting the survey done and So I figured Jason would take us through the top level results, so that's the presentation that you have. And then figure that would take 5 or 10 minutes, and then we can open it up for discussion and questions to the rest of the supervisors.
Yep.
That's all right?
Sounds good.
All right.
All right, well, thank you for that introduction. Yeah, we're at Club Insights are really excited to work with Julie and part of the Community Development District to undertake this survey process. And you know, what's always exciting to me is, especially when a club like Venetian River Club hasn't done a survey in maybe a while or done it in different ways, to get a good strong baseline and say, all right, here's a good snapshot picture of where we're at today, and help us on where we're going. And I know there's some changes coming with the new GM, and we committed to doing a meeting with the GM as a new GM, you know, in the onboarding process and getting him up to speed and kind of what the results are saying and maybe next steps to take. So today, as mentioned, we're just going to go through kind of a high-level summary of the results. There's a lot more that we can talk about when it comes to slicing and dicing and going in different directions. But I think for the initial time today, we're going to kind of stay at the high level here, kind of cover some of those strengths, opportunities, you know, where this can go as part of the discussion for the future. Our goal is always continuous improvement. Now, to me, it doesn't matter so much of what the numbers may be, where you're at, that's part of it, but it's, all right, how do we take those numbers, put something into action and move forward? So this will be a little different today, just being on the phone. I can't keep you from going forward on slides. I'm going to try not to read too much of the slides. There's not a lot of just writing on them other than slide 2. You'll see kind of the overview. The overview is more for a reference when you go back to look at this, that kind of talks about how we handled the questionnaire. So there were a few different scales and a lot of open ends. So it contained, you'll see in that middle paragraph, some agreement, sentiment questions, detailed satisfaction and performance measures in the different amenity areas. And so we also had some demographics. So like I said, we can split and look at the data in different views, and that's helpful when it comes to maybe understanding as well as communicating some of the results back to different groups. That bottom paragraph is going to talk, and I'm going to explain this on some of the first slides where we see some scores. Then we look at mean scores on the 1 to 5 scale. We also look at top 2 box percentage. So when we say top 2 box, it's position 4 or 5 on the 5-point scale. So whether we're on a satisfaction, where that's very satisfied, extremely satisfied, satisfied is kind of the midpoint, the baseline for a private club setting, or whether it's on our performance scale, excellent and good, that we want to be in those kind of top 2 boxes. So that's kind of where we're headed today. The next slide is just a general response stats. The emails went out, you know, whether they were bounced, invalids, you know, characters wrong, some unsubscribes, but you got a really strong response rate, 43% response rate. You'll see 2 numbers there on the bottom. There were 1,043 members that at least clicked on the link from the email, went in and did something or took a look at the survey. You'll see the numbers next to certain questions. We use skip logic throughout the survey, but basically 964 responses, so a 43% response rate, which is a strong response rate. All right, so go to slide number 4. It should be number 4 right there. I'm not sure.
Hold on, one second, Jason.
Jason, we have a question. Go ahead, Ken.
Sorry, I'm just curious, can you explain why, with 964 responses, why some of the numbers of responses were as high as 978?
Did you hear the question?
Yeah. That higher number would be out of the 1,043 that clicked on the link and maybe started. The sentiment ones are 978. That's the first set of questions. They may not have gone on past that. They may have stopped. Our system's going to capture each one as they click on it. So we had 964 that went through the survey and kind of closed out their survey at the end.
Did you get that, Ken?
I did.
Okay.
Good question. All right, so the next one that has a couple of pictures on it, again, we try and look, there's a number of businesses under one roof of a club, so when we looked at some of the strengths, we're going to show where this came from in a minute, but as far as key takeaways on strengths, staff scored well, the resort pool came out as a strength, brunch was definitely on the stronger side of the tiki bar. When we look at key opportunities, dining, especially dinner, communications, social events, and then the one on the bottom there is preferred place to meet friends. It's an opportunity that's somewhat of an outcome where we're gonna talk about that with the emotional connectivity and sentiment on the next page. There's some things that I consider outcomes. We wanna manage and work then on the activities that lead to some of these outcomes, creating a place that is their preferred place to meet their friends and have members spend their time hanging out and enjoying. So that one might be feel a little bit different as an opportunity, but the opportunity is how do we create that, make the River Club the place that people want to hang out, want to meet their friends, and bring their friends. So if we go to the next page, there's a couple things on this next slide. One, that's where I think somebody brought up, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the name, but the 978. So out of the 1,043 that clicked on it, a number of these questions weren't required, but 978 answered some of these first ones. So you can see a couple of boxes there across the distribution. If you look at the top, I mentioned a 5-point scale. This one happens to be strongly disagree up to strongly agree. So when we talk about the top two box, that's that agree and strongly agree, or the 4 and 5 position on the scale. Then the mean score will take into account everyone. So this is also referenced on slide 2, if you go back to it at some point when you're coming back to these results. But how we look at it from a research company standpoint is we like to look at that top two box and say, okay, when we see something like preferred place to meet my friends is at 21.4, the next step in my head then as a researcher is, all right, are they in that neutral column, which we have about half of the responses were? Or do they start to get into that disagree or strongly disagree? And so just kind of seeing that spread then helps me say, all right, do we have, how much work do we have to move people into that top two box area? And then it also references it on slide 2, but throughout the survey, there were comment boxes in the different satisfaction areas that help us, once we look at the scores and the quantitative, what are those qualitative answers and those comments telling us that we can work on to improve things that are maybe lower, we see a higher distribution towards that left side of the scores. So looking down that list, top one, I'm proud of my bring yes to the club. 66%, 2/3 in that top two, 25% the neutral, and just 9% on that lower end. So that's the stronger one on this page, and then comfortable recommending the club to neighbors, preferred place to meet my friends. We've got opportunity there at just 21% in that top two box. Then value and confidence in the club's management. Obviously, confidence in management is going to be shifting. Now, we hope as we get a new general manager in and see those steps going forward. I'm going to pause there for a second on the distributions. Any questions on how the tables are laid out?
Don't think so. Ken or Cheryl, questions? I don't know if you heard that.
Nope, not yet.
No questions right now.
Great. Thank you. We may have to have somebody closer to the mic share that when it happens. I was able to catch most of it, but a few people in the background are a little.
Yeah, they were just brief, no comments, pretty much.
Great. So the next slide then is the next part of the survey. We started going to the overall satisfaction. So again, there is a rationale for how we lay out our survey design. We kind of started at that top level of emotional connectivity, the sentiment that we saw in the previous slide. Then we want to lay out, okay, here's everything that's offered, and overall on kind of that top level, please give us a rating from extremely dissatisfied to extremely satisfied. Then later on, we break into each one of those amenities and drill in a little bit deeper. So on this one, you'll notice in the bottom right corner of the slide, there's a star and asterisk with the top two box score excludes NA. So I want to explain that right on the top row there. When we look at stats, and we're going across that extremely dissatisfied all the way up to extremely satisfied and the NA, not applicable column. That's the scoring that members should provide on the survey. So if you add those up, that will equal 100%. So when you look at the top two box on staff, only 3.3% of the responses scored it in NA, so that's going to be pretty close, within a percent or two if you added the 4s and 5s. But if we went down to the lab pool where a number of people chose NA that they don't use the lab pool, they didn't rate it, we recalculate just on those that scored it, that 1 through 5 for the top two box of the mean score. That's where the NAs are not counted against that, and that's that note at the bottom, that the top two box score excludes the not applicable answers.
That's clear.
So I know that's a tricky everyone, especially people that look at the numbers, you know, try and add the 4s and 5s, and there's a few that you get pretty close on, but the numbers are there, number of responses, so if you wanted to figure out how many people actually rated it extremely dissatisfied, you can do that based on the total number of responses from the right. You can see when you look down that on the extremely dissatisfied column, very, very low scores. Top one, the highest scoring there is in dinner dining, which is only 4%, but as that one goes across, you can see that there is 17% in the dissatisfied, 35, and just being satisfied, and then let's go as we go up into the very satisfied and extremely satisfied. Hence why that was shown as an opportunity on one of that first takeaway slides.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
All right, let's move on to the next slide. This is kind of a legend slide. I'm going to go over this briefly before we get to slide 8. So one of the analysis that we provide is not only just saying how well did we score, but trying to find what's most important. And this helps us in setting priorities. So we do that by running a correlation analysis. We're correlating the overall satisfaction of any given amenity, whether that's lab pool, whatever it might be, tenants, to overall satisfaction with the club in general. And then when we drill down later on to specific questions about tenants or about the resort pool, those are correlated to the overall satisfaction with that amenity. So that correlation provides us the importance score on the left-hand side going up. So the performance across the bottom is that 1 to 5 scale. The importance score, this is all relative when we look at these. So the higher up it is, the more important it is. So if we start in the upper right, higher importance, higher performing, that's our promotion, our marketing, our strengths. On the left-hand side, the upper left quadrant, higher importance but lower performing, that's our first focus for improvement efforts. Lower left would be lower importance and lower performing, so that's, we improve, that's our secondary, our improve as time allows. And then lower right is really maintain when it's a private club, and certain businesses that may be reallocating efforts. Here it's mostly maintaining. It's relatively lower importance, not that it's lower unimportant, but it's just lower. Those lines that divide up the quadrants are drawn at the average. So the first thing I'm going to do every time I look at one of these is look at where are my lines drawn, especially the vertical ones, saying, okay, on performance. If we draw at the average, it forces things to the left, forces things to the right. Same with importance. Things are going to be up higher or lower. Doesn't mean that things on the bottom are not important. It just means they're relatively lower importance than some of the other items. The nice thing about a private club is there's usually staff in every one of those amenity areas, so we can work on all the different areas. We just have to figure out what our priorities are and where we want to work first. So if we flip over to slide 8, you're going to see that overall quadrant. These are the same listing that we saw in the last table. And now you can see on the right, we've got our staff, resort pool, dining brunch, the tiki bar, circled in green. Those are on the right-hand side. That's our strength on the stronger on the higher performing side. Then I'm going to look at the line going down the middle, and we can see that that's drawn between the 3.4 and the 3.5. So we're on a decent end of the scale here. We're not down showing from a 2 to a 5 or from a 1.5. The scale is showing from a 3.1 up to about a 3.8. So then on the left-hand side, that's circled, you can see we've got member communications, dinner dining, social events. Clubhouse is kind of right on the edge there in the middle. And those are circled saying that's our first area of priority when we're looking for improvement efforts. Then we can see below that, we also have the tennis, the hot tub and spa, dining, lunch. There's a few other things down there, but the first area of priority from the research would be the communications, dinner, and social events. I'm going to pause there. I know that's a lot of information on kind of one screen. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah.
Yes.
So Jason.
hold on. Go ahead, speak a little louder, sir, please. Yes?
Okay. So the level of importance, see, you know, obviously it just correlates with participation, doesn't it?
Well, it's similar with participation, but the importance levels for those that participate in tennis, that importance level is from those tennis people that scored tennis. So you're still getting a correlation coefficient from tennis scores and the tennis players and how they scored everything. So each one of these items would have its own correlation. So if somebody didn't score, didn't answer that doesn't lower their correlation. It lowers the amount of people in that correlation calculation.
No, I appreciate that. So, but that's my point. If you've only got 200 and so tennis players, 175, I think, that respond to the tennis section, by definition, isn't that going to lower its importance?
No, because the correlation is calculated the same way. There's just what's in there. Tennis was the most important thing to all the tennis players affecting their overall satisfaction. The correlation between the two items would still be higher. So
I get the
we get this question a lot. It has somewhat of an effect, but not as much as people think. The reality is the importance level difference between the top and the bottom. It is not that great. Just how we're zoomed in here from a 3.1 up to a 4, I'd have to go back and look, but we're zoomed in. It's not that these are down at a 0 and these are all the way up at a 1. Everything is important. So again, we could set this line into certain things and say, okay, everything's important. That's why we're careful in those labels that it's lower. But tennis is so important, hot tubs are important, lunch is important. All of these items are important. It's not that anything here isn't important. But communication, you're right, does affect everyone. Dinner does affect everyone. Social events, though, kind of like tennis. Not everyone participates in the social, but it's still pretty close in the importance level to dinner.
Did you get that, Ken?
I heard him.
So what's
I'm not convinced.
Okay.
But my point is, it seems to me that there's a correlation between participation and the level of importance of everything.
You catch that,
Is
Jason?
that necessarily a bad thing? I think it's a follow-up question. Are we going to prioritize
1
what
second.
most people are interested in?
Cheryl, would you
You said
repeat
there's a
that, please?
correlation between participation and level of importance.
The calculation doesn't take participation into account. Tennis is only being, those that answered the tennis questions and the overall tennis and overall satisfaction. Each one of these, I think he's talking volume versus the calculation. The calculation doesn't look at volume. It looks at each one independently and creates that correlation.
Okay.
I'll send a sheet through that talks about how we calculate that and where that comes from that can be shared with the supervisors and beyond if needed about the correlation analysis.
Okay.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, so the next slide then, let me back up. So on this, when the management team gets to go through the online, you have an appendix here that will have breakdown tables like we looked at for each one of these amenities and the questions. In the online platform that management will have access to, when it comes to the gym or when it comes to the clubhouse or communications, there is what we call a PIP chart, performance improvement planner, like this for each one of the amenities. So I'll explain that more in a minute, but just want to let you know that this is the overall one. But for each one, whether we want to work on what's going to happen in the gym or pickleball or the lap pool, even though they're on the right side, what can we focus on? What small improvements can we make? There will be a chart just like this for each amenity area.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, a couple other notes of interest that we saw in the survey. So on the left-hand side here, you can see the question, how many times per month do you dine outside the community? Quite a few that are 5 or more in the month. The reason that we pulled this as a note of interest is I know dining was on that lower side, and there's going to obviously be a point of emphasis from what I've heard from management and kind of going through this. So as that improves, this just shows that there is opportunity to bring members back in to have them dine at the club more often. I would say at every private club, whether it's a community or a standalone private club, there are a few that are dining focused, food focused, food and beverage focused, but most, when it's this many businesses underneath the one roof of a club, dining is the difficult part. If we think about going out to our favorite steakhouse or favorite Italian restaurant or favorite Mexican restaurant, we probably have 2 or 3 items that we order there because they're our favorite. We only go there maybe once a month, once every other month. If it's like my family, every other month maybe. But when I come to the club multiple times, now we're trying to serve a wider palette of taste, wider breadth of membership in one restaurant, one dining venue, or multiple smaller dining venues and focus. So dining is a difficult area, and the comparison for members' mindset is often to some of their favorite restaurants that they go to. But this slide just shows that there is opportunity if we can improve dining to maybe get some of those dining visits from outside the community back inside the community. Then we also asked at the end of the survey how supportive you would be of the following potential changes. So this is also around dining. We offered more nights of inside dining, more nights for outside dining, yearly minimum. We can see here again on the supportive side, top 2 box of the supportive and extremely supportive. Not huge support. A lot of people in the neutral on a couple of these, lesser on the yearly minimum for dining. That was 50% not supportive or not at all supportive. So I wouldn't necessarily move quickly on any of these items, but when it comes to opening for more nights, whether it's inside or outside dining, part of that may be taking care of and improving the dining that's currently being offered, and that may change as their support and level for wanting to come back to dine more at the club. So we wanted to pull these into kind of the first set of slides here that we talked about today, just to show those, because I know those are of interest to the supervisors especially. All right, 2 more slides that I'd like to go over before we open up for other questions. The next slide is transforming data to action. So one of the things as researchers that we hope for with every club that we work with is that this isn't a report that's kind of nice to know and sits on a shelf, but that we turn it into action. So the big part at the top of the wheel on the right, you'll see is to understand. Going through and having management go through and understand the scores, read the comments, see where members stand, maybe start segmenting or looking and sorting by different age categories or different tenures of membership, to really understand and setting the priorities and saying, okay, what are we going to prioritize? How do we build an action plan around that? We have questions that are what the members see. When it comes to staff or any business, there's usually anywhere from 6 to 14 or 15, whether they're standard operating procedures, guidelines that are focused on in the background to make sure that that score, that what we're providing the members is strong and can receive a great score. So usually there's 4 to 6 action items then for a specific area that might get put on a plan that we're going to execute against. And you need to give the time to let that happen, and then you celebrate your successes and see, all right, what are the next things and where do we understand again? How do we make this a cyclical cycle of we listen to the members, we act on that, we're going to improve the experience, and then we need to listen again and see are there other areas, the next area that we focus on, and continue to have voice of the members be a part of the action plans and the changes that are being put forth within the club. So on that, some of the keys to that is the online system will allow management to sort by segments. We put a little picture down there that they can sort by age ranges, gender, membership categories, and tenures within the system. The system will recalculate those flip charts. It'll filter the comments to help give some understanding maybe to certain comments that came from whether it's a certain tenure, newer members, more tenured members, whatever that might be, based on the filters, so that management can really kind of dig in and set the appropriate action plans and the appropriate communication back out to the membership as they make changes. Any changes that are made, we always encourage any changes that are made need to be communicated, need to be talked about, not just celebrated later, not leave the expectation that members will see that maybe the board of supervisors decided to make this change and management is acting it out and implementing it. Don't just expect members to see that. Communicate, talk about it, let them know what they're going to see. Encourage them to look for these positive changes and moves that the club is making to improve the member experience. All right, the next one is just kind of a thank you slide. As I said at the beginning, honored to partner with the development district and the club to provide this research. There's an appendix here that goes through a number of the different amenities and breaks down the scores. There was a logic, remember, so as they went through the survey or members are taking it, if they don't use a certain amenity to honor their time or respect their time, it would skip over those questions. So just those that use the amenity then would see the detailed questions, the performance questions for each one. And then there's also, I believe it was shared, but there is a comment file. I know the comment file does pull some numbers of how many mentions and different things some have. I would encourage you not to use that too much as a quantitative measure, or just, okay, there's some repeated comments and some themes here. We always start with looking at the scores in the tables, the tip charts, and then looking at the comments to say, what are the members telling us? How would they like to see us improve this area? And the member comments are a great resource of information there for those changes.
Okay.
Good.
Is that it?
Any
That's
questions?
it from my side, so open
Okay.
for questions, discussions, some things that maybe I'll answer now, some like the correlation, I'll send another piece through, and happy to follow up with Julie and anyone else that they need to.
Okay, any supervisors have additional questions for Jason?
Ken?
I have one.
Okay, Ken.
How can we as board members, without having to go to the management team, can we get into some of the details like the demographics?
He said Ken wants to know if the board members directly can get some information about the demographics.
So I guess the question, Jason, might be is can the supervisors get access to the tool that Julie and ultimately Bernardo will have? Is that possible?
It is possible. There's a few different things in there. We just have to make sure, but yes, it's possible. That's the short answer, yes. So let's work on that together and we'll get access to it.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I'm just curious, for example, are we getting, as a community, are we getting older, younger, more kids, fewer kids? I'm just
I think
curious.
older is the answer. Just a guess.
That's just your case.
But that will definitely give you the snapshot of where the ages and where that is now. As far as it's getting older, younger, I'd have to rely on the management and your expertise of what it's been like the last 5 years. But it will start to compare that year to year if you do future studies with us. One of the things, if you notice, it doesn't automatically have a count on the number of responses, and it puts it there as kind of a starting point. In future studies, the top two box and mean score, you would see green arrows with score changes up, or red arrows with the amount of score change down as things are, which way they're trending if we look at future studies.
Well, we do have the data from last year, right? So,
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm curious. And I think we had one from several years ago.
yeah. And of course, it's not necessarily the same people answering the survey, but there should be some kind of a trend.
Yeah.
So,
There should be a trend with over 900 responses. You've got solid data here, and with 43% response rate, I'd be very confident in the numbers, even in the demographics of what the snapshot is right now of the members.
So, Jason, go ahead.
Go ahead, Ken.
I was just gonna say, I think the last year's survey had even higher numbers, but I'm not sure. I thought there were like 1,200 responses last year.
I don't remember.
I've got it, I haven't had a chance to go back and look.
Okay.
Because I have nothing to compare it to.
Do you think, Jason, there's an optimal time of year? I'm sure it's probably different in a private club versus a bundled community like ours, but do you think there's an optimal time of year to do a survey?
Well, yes, but it's not necessarily the same as you mentioned for all clubs. So it's usually towards the end of the season when they've had the most experiences. So typically in Florida clubs, that would be in the time frame that we ran, the late spring, early summer time frame. Part of that depends on how much of the community, vacates for the heat of the summer or stay year round. But typically it's around this time. We have a lot of our southern clubs that have wrapped up in the last 2 months and a few that are still going right now. Arizona, are still going right now. Then when you talk about optimal timing, it's anyone on the call, has a home up north here, is that in our northern ones, like where I'm at in Michigan, we run those annual surveys typically in September, October.
And I think you said, you or Peter said that if we wanted any sub-analyses done, we could do that for a fee. So I'm not saying that we have any, but I just wanted to reconfirm. I don't know whether there are any logical sub-analyses that can be done with this, but in case the question comes up.
There may be, and we can definitely dig into it. Like I said, this is a high level everyone, even with what you have in the online platform, you can do most of the analysis if there's certain subgroups or things you're looking for. But there's a lot of ways to use the data. So maybe there's, just as an example, but yes, we can run different analysis, different groupings. There's a lot of analysis. My analyst team enjoys digging into a lot of data. Usually there's enough in the filters to get started with where we need to prioritize and where we need to go on the first year. One of the ways that we can use the data though, and this wouldn't be an extra charge or anything, but when we see some of these areas, if you're putting together some action plans, if you're wanting to dig a little deeper than what the comments said, we can look into the results and members that were willing to share their name, information with their results, and maybe there's a small group that you want to pull together for a coffee and dessert and a roundtable discussion to dig a little deeper. There's, some clubs have done that. There's a lot of options and a lot of ways to use the data. And, we'll definitely be covering that again with your new general manager as well for helping to dig into it.
Okay, that's helpful.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Any other questions?
Looks like there's none.
Jason, thank you very much.
Just an initial kind of dump and download of kind of the top level. Like I said, we'll be working with the team to dig into it a little more, and I'm sure there may be more questions. Feel free to filter those through some of the contacts, and we'll be happy to get back with you.
Good.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you, Jason.
Thanks very much.
Talk soon, thanks, bye.
Yes, sir.
It was really Ken, because they did Ken's club.
All right, so we,
Last year, we had 1,198 responses.
11:98.
Okay.
we are,
It's 11:10. You want to take a 5-minute break?
your call, sir.
Okay. Let's take a break at 11:10. Okay, you want to back up to River Club report?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
River Club.
Okay.
Judy.
All right, everyone. Hello. Good
Hey.
morning, board. So again, thanking Bernard to be here, just to be supportive, hear what's going on. I'd like to thank you all for your patience the last few months with me being the interim person. And so, as I said earlier, just now for the record, Bernard's going to start on August 1st. Just to let the board know, I'm going to send out an email so we could pre-plan some appointments, so there would be dedicated appointments to the board. And then we're hoping like in the first 2 weeks that I would ask anyone else to make appointments on specific days, because there's gonna be a lot of training, not only with Vesta as a Vesta employee, but also for the board as well. And we wanna not necessarily like limit access, but have a controlled environment, because we really need to be able to, address all the things we're talking about, and really excited about that. So thank you, and thank you, Trees, for being such a wonderful support through all of this with me. I really appreciate it. Just very simply, talked about it earlier in the workshop. Jonas is alive and well, lots and lots of training it was, because remember, there's the back end with the membership and some, different elements like that, vendors, paying the bills. So it's a huge system, not just for the service staff. So we do want you to know that. Now our big goal is to really create a great website. So the website matches, all the fun and interesting things that's available through the Jonas site. So we, the other thing with Jonas, there are some different possibilities, but once we're set on it, then we'll bring that to you. You may say, what are you talking about? So some of the things to potentially save dollars is when you have the members paying their bill, if we go to ACH transfer instead of credit cards, you save on credit card expense. It would really be a great thing to do, and we're gonna absolutely present it. Jonas said that's what most of the clubs are doing. So and maybe if you belong to other clubs, you know that. So that's a possibility. Ken, I know you probably heard that part of it as well.
That's very important. I mean, there's $32,000.
Yes, sir.
A year that we can save, and I'm 100% behind that. There's no need to take monthly payments on credit cards.
Right. Yes, sir.
Golf course stopped doing it 2
Right.
years ago.
Right. And so we'll follow suit, but we really needed to get this started. So absolutely we'll follow suit very soon, and that'll be one of the first things I work out with Bernard, just to kind of present that, and you guys can decide, but absolutely a great way to save those dollars, right? But yes, so that's kind of where we're at, and then, we'll be gearing up and give a better presentation on the plan for the revenue, to increase the revenue and to meet the budget dollars. We're gonna be really serious about that and develop a lot of our time to do that as a side element through Vesta with myself and Tree. And then, like I had mentioned before, presenting it to Bernard. So I'm really excited about that as well. So thank you very much for your patience during this whole time, but we're really excited to move forward. And Teresa is gonna talk a little bit about events. Anyone have a specific question for me?
No, I just wanted to say, I'm really pleased that the staff came out well in the survey. I was so happy to see that, because I know how hard everybody's been working to deliver the events. And, I hope the staff knows, I'm sure all of us appreciate it and the residents appreciate it as a whole.
Thank
But
you.
the staff is really trying hard.
Thanks. Thank you. Now that it's out, we're gonna absolutely have a meeting to present it to the staff. But it's ongoing. We're not gonna rest on our laurels, that's for sure. That'll be ongoing. Thank you, though.
And that was a nice thing to see in the report, is that the staff, everyone is really feeling the changes here in the staff. And it's encouraging as a manager to know that is being observed. So really excited about it. We are gonna be working on the events. I noticed that was one of our lower things. We are pretty scheduled through the rest of the year with different events, with maybe a few pop-ups coming here and there that we're gonna be working on. Update on our July 4th, that was probably one of the best turnouts that we've had on the 4th of July. We had 190 people, we had over 150 registered, and then we had walk-ins. We did DJ, we did karaoke, good turnout. Keith had the pool all decorated, he had beach balls in there, and just a lot of, not that Keith.
Not that.
Cabana Daddy Keith. Cabana Daddy Keith, he had everything going out there, and it was just a lot of fun. So I want to thank all the residents and the board and just all of your guys' support as we have been trying to build and get more organized and getting great things going. So looking forward to the rest of the year.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Teresa or for Julie?
All right, then we'll go on to field manager. Keith?
I'm good, unless there's some questions.
No questions? Okay. District manager, under my report, your next meeting is scheduled for July 22nd. I know we're going to talk about this at 9:30, but you want to have some discussion about the August 12th meeting and the September 9th meeting. So I guess we need to hash that out.
August 12th is good. We're going to do the budget.
We already have the ad out for the budget.
That's in cement.
Okay, that's good.
The question came up about the August 24th or 5th, when the RFQ is going to be reviewed.
Okay.
We're going to push that till September 9th. Because there won't be a quorum, I don't think.
I'll work with Dave Jackson and Michelle Rebs to make sure we rejigger some of the calendaring on that.
Okay.
So it would be only one meeting in August.
Yes.
It's going to be, yes, the 12th.
Okay.
What about this month?
What about July 22nd?
We didn't decide, did we?
We didn't decide. I don't,
Back and forth.
I know that I'm going to have difficulty that day.
I could be here, but I'd just be a little late. I gotta bring myself a can.
Okay, so my opinion would be that we should let it go.
You won't have a quorum if you're not here.
No. We won't.
Okay. So decide that one's canceled?
So it was 7:20
7:22, yes.
and 8:26. Yes.
There's a change, we're canceled.
I'll just mention again, which I said quietly before, we're scheduled to have one meeting a month. The second meeting is, of course, an extra charge, about $2,000. So when we, and I know there's been discussion about having meetings, when we cancel a meeting, none of us get paid, of course. What it comes to is $2,000 saved. I mean, if over the course of the year, and I've been pretty good at canceling meetings over the last couple of years, because if there's nothing to talk about, having come from a previous life where I was in meetings and meetings and meetings, days and days and days in a row, and a lot of time we spend at meetings, and let's get back to work. If we don't have anything to discuss, why are we spending the $2,000? It makes no sense to me. So, but that's just my opinion.
Okay, then jump on over to the review of the second quarter website audit. I looked through it and, I'm sorry.
Before we leave that, I thought we were supposed to be getting a draft of an email that was going to be going out with the budget.
That's,
Do we?
That's when Ken.
And I think that's Ken's.
oh.
No, you're talking about the
No.
FYI. Right.
Rosetta was going to be, that's separate. Rosetta.
I looked at
yes.
one that Belinda
We never got
did.
it.
Oh, okay, I looked at one that Belinda did like right before she took her leave.
Right.
I think you might have been on that email, Rich.
I don't recall it.
Yeah, we were going to get the letter
Maybe
that we don't have
that
to
might
do a
have
notice,
fallen-
but it was explaining.
Right.
Right.
Let me back up. So we're all on the same page.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when you are raising your assessments, you have to do a statutory mail notice that hits certain statutory requirements. And historically, we've sent that because we had to, and we always put an extra plain language one in there. This year, because our assessments are flat, we do not need to do that statutory mail notice. But as you said, Jill, we talked about doing a plain language mailing. I do remember Belinda preparing one that I looked at and gave some comments on before she left. So that may have been something that never got
I'll dig it up. I'll get
forward.
with staff and find out.
But I do know that she prepared it.
It was gonna go by email, I think.
I think that's what was discussed.
Yeah, if that can come to us and if we can give comments back to, Melissa, I guess.
You can send them to me and I'll get them into the right people's hands. If you got mine, you know,
If
you
there's-
can even send them to Belinda. We'll
And
get
Greg, I'll dig through my email. If I can find it, I'll flip it.
Okay. All right, good.
I do remember meeting before she left.
All right, no worries.
Thank you.
Under the second quarter website audit, I reviewed that. Everything looked like passed all areas. There were no negative comments in there. I don't know if you have any particular questions or concerns to take back to them, but looked pretty much everything in order. I guess I would just need a motion to accept it and file.
I'll make a motion that we accept it.
Okay. A second from Jill. We have a motion and a second to accept the second quarter website audit report. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. And that's all I really have to report. Unless you have any questions of me, I can take back to staff or anything you need. Hearing none. Go on to business items. Yes, sir.
We'll pass over the noise issue on pickleball because we already did that with Rick. We're gonna get LNP is gonna give us a quote on some.
Before we jump that, I have one item on the agenda before that, before we get into the pickleball.
Oh, the survey results.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all
The
right.
same thing. I already got a
Put a
note.
little
Sorry.
check mark next
My
to
bad.
that.
Sorry. Okay, what'd you say about pickleball courts? Excuse me.
The item is about the noise at the pickleball courts. We kind of discussed that with Rick when he was here. And I think we're gonna wait for some more information, especially something from LNP about landscaping, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Was there anything else on pickleball too?
No.
Okay.
All right, then we'll go on to discussion and consideration of gate access traffic options. This is tab 3 of your agenda.
We discussed this at the workshop, and Ken has done quite a bit of research on all of that. Ken, do you want to just sum that up quickly?
Sure. So, as we discussed, we had two options. One was ISN, which is the company that also integrates with TrafficHawk. They were the ones that we went down to Naples and looked at as well. It was very good software, no question, does everything we wanted to do. Was the more expensive option. Option 2 was Universal Access, who's our current vendor, who also integrates to a traffic control hardware and software product called Traffic Logics, the cost of which is similar to TrafficHawk, is a little more startup, but annual costs were a little lower if we get into that. The gates access software itself was much less expensive than ISN. And as Keith pointed out, it integrates with Carry System. It uses the same RFID tags that we currently use. And overall, my recommendation would be to go with option 2, the TechWave software through Universal Access. And I don't know if you want to limit this to the gate at this point. We want to table the traffic control portion of it. I guess that's up to the board.
Well, we can add the traffic control system at any time, right?
Yes.
So we don't need to deal with that right now. We can move forward with the rest of it.
Correct.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay. And I would make a motion that we do exactly that. Move forward, that we put the traffic situation on the side for right now and accept the,
TechWave,
yeah,
Universal Access
universal access,
software solution.
right, software solution. And that's a total of 49,260.
It's 14, no, it's 14, for just the traffic, the gate access portion, it's 14,504 one-time costs.
Right.
And 9,900 annual costs, offset by the $2,700 savings by eliminating the Southwest software.
Right, okay.
Ken, this is Andy. Is there some sort of contract agreement or anything they've presented you with, or?
Not a contract per se. If it's approved, we would get that from Universal Access.
Okay, well, whatever input you need from me, just let me know. I'm glad to help you.
Yeah, I don't know, Keith, if you know any more than that, but it's,
No, I think we just have to get it approved first, and then I'll get with, Paul Savage, and, through his contacts, we'll make sure that Andy gets a copy of the proposal and, reads through it then.
So we'll see these warranties and all that, because these things break down, our experience.
Okay, so, I'll make the motion then that we go with universal access, at, 14,504, pending
An annual fee of $9,900.
an annual, 9,900. And Andy will take care of the contract once it's here.
Subject to attorney review.
Subject to attorney's review.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Rick, second from Ernest. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Cheryl, you there?
I am. I was gonna ask a question, but we never did the question part.
Oh, my bad. I should have done that, sorry.
You should ask it anyway.
Ask the question anyway.
So my question is, if we only do the gate access part, are we essentially deactivating the traffic hawk?
I didn't know it was up.
Oh, good question.
Yeah, for right now.
Yes.
Because it won't be compatible.
Deactivating the traffic hawk, why are we not doing the new traffic system? Are we not sure we want the traffic system? I'm just curious.
Well, I have a concern about enforcement.
I do.
There you go.
I do also.
You know,
So it's a bigger issue. So right now, we're just gonna do the gate, but I just wanna be clear that we are deactivating traffic hawk.
You can continue with the traffic hawk, it's just not gonna be compatible.
We're not deactivating it, Cheryl. It's not run by us, it's run by the POA. And they can continue to use it.
Right.
Basically, it's
not integrated today, so they can still use it.
So even without the database and the gate access piece being through ISN, they can continue to use traffic hawk? I think that's the part I'm confused about.
It's independent.
It's independent. We don't have, as Ken just said, we don't have ISS now, and we use the traffic hawk.
Right, and the POA does the traffic hawk.
They do the traffic hawk.
And if we were to integrate, when we get the new system put in and integrate that traffic hawk system in there, it still will be controlled by the POA.
Correct.
Paid for by the CDD.
Correct.
And any fines thereof go to
The POA, we don't have finding power.
So I think we probably need to do have a discussion concerning traffic enforcement.
We can have that on the agenda.
At another time.
Yes, we can have that on the agenda.
Because I am vehemently opposed to the traffic law.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
All right,
Bill,
so-
would you like me to cast my vote?
Yes.
Yes.
So to review, we were back and forth on a few things. So we're going to, you've approved going forward with this, we're still gonna get the proposal in. You're gonna review the proposal. Do the board members want to see that? We'll send that proposal out to you. For the executed, or?
That's up to you, but I think they approved the deal, and I'm gonna make sure the contract documents are
Right.
sufficient.
Okay, very good.
No, just Anderson.
All right, we will then go on to tab 4, discussion and consideration of the 2024 strategic direction report.
All right. Now that we have the right one.
Yeah, sorry about any.
No problem.
confusion. And I know I had sent it.
No.
Yeah.
I did have a question for you, Ken. On number 5. Oh, maybe, yeah. Number 5, the 4th bullet where you talk about operations are running over $80,000 better than last year. What are you looking at, gross profit for the River Club? I'm struggling to find that.
Bottom line, net profit. This was through, I think at the time, April or May, maybe after May.
Well, I guess I'd encourage you to look at it again, because when I looked at the May year-to-date financials, we were, I see, no, I'm not seeing the number that you're looking at. Let's put it that way.
Okay, the prior, so this is from the River Club report,
Right.
not the Rosetta report.
Right, correct, yeah.
So year-to-date, to May 31st, the actual was a profit of $12,832.
Okay, so you're looking at that number, so versus the loss of 66, if my glasses are right.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Isn't that 80?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it is 80, yep, that's true, it is 80,
That's true.
yep. It's behind plan though. Okay.
Well, it's $6,000 behind plan.
Yeah, I know.
Which on a scheme of 1.8 million, I didn't think was too bad. But
Yeah.
but the year-over-year gain worth noting.
Okay. I guess the only other thing that I wondered out loud about to myself is, we haven't talked about the strategic plan at all, as a board, which frankly, you and I talked about this when I was on the committee before I got elected, and I think it's important, that the board do it. I just think it may look disjointed that all of a sudden we're providing a report on something, a document that we haven't talked about in the time that I've been on the board.
Well, but it's a document that we operate under.
We don't follow it though. I mean, I don't see us pulling it out and grading ourselves against it.
We just did this report.
Well, I think you're being obtuse, but okay. I think that maybe what I would say is I think maybe we should in the future, as an example, I think one of the most important things we've missed out on is we haven't given either of our major vendors any kind of goals against which to measure them, which I think is unfortunate because that's what all our funds are applied against. So.
No argument from me.
Okay.
We haven't done a lot of things. This is talking about some of the things we have done.
No, fair enough. One thing I think we might want to consider is putting a link in this document to the strategic plan that's on the Rosetta website, or where the address where people can find it. So,
well, I don't think it needs to be in this document.
Okay. Just a suggestion.
Personally.
This is Cheryl, obviously, but I don't think that's a bad idea to have a link to the strategic plan, because some people might look at this and think this is the strategic plan. Remember, 60% of the people, 70% of the people in the community don't really follow any of this.
No.
So they're gonna get this letter. I don't think a link is a bad idea, but I do have a couple of additions when Jill is done.
I'm done.
That's fine. I'm not sure I know how to do that, so if you can do it, that's great.
You know what, Ken, I'll, I'm allowed to send Ken a web address without any comments, can't I, Andy? Is that a sunshine violation?
No, you can send them something,
Okay.
but you cannot respond.
Well,
Okay.
why not just send it to Michelle?
Okay,
You can do that.
I'll do that.
And Michelle can add it, yeah. So my other
Okay.
comments, Ken, are, in number 1, maintaining it in the community's infrastructure. I think it's fair to add something like, as a bullet point, cleanup of the immediate impact of the hurricane damage and begin replacement of damaged landscaping. And we could even mention there prior to current efforts to engage a landscape architect. But in any case, I think we need to acknowledge the cleanup of the immediate impact of hurricane damage and beginning replacement.
Okay,
I'm fine with that.
Okay, and then under number 6, where you talk about improved resident engagement, and we mentioned 2 committees. Is there, are you looking for comment? I mean, I think that it's also fair to say, encouraging advisory committees to become more proactive. You mentioned facilities, you mentioned reserve committee. I think it's fair to mention landscape committee on landscape refresh, social dining on increasing the number of events.
can you write this down and send it either through Michelle or to me?
Can I?
We can
Yes,
to
I think I
Michelle.
did,
We
but
can
I
ask
think my
for
comments got lost in between
We can ask
people being
for
out.
comments
So,
previously, and we only got them from one person.
so Andy, who do I send them to?
Send them to
Ken?
Michelle, please.
Michelle,
And then when Michelle sends them, they shouldn't have people's names on them.
Right.
Just be, this is the feedback we've received to the report.
You okay with that, Cheryl?
With Michelle.
Yeah, sure. I'm okay with it, for sure.
I will send them to Michelle. Thank you.
Okay.
Is it too early for
it's
us?
intended to be examples, not all inclusive, but I have
Right.
that.
Is it too early for us to talk about conducting a survey and addressing?
Oh,
I mean,
that's a good point.
I would hope the survey would
Talking about
be
adding that to this?
Yes, adding it to it.
Well, again, that's a comment you can send to Michelle
Okay.
for addition.
Most people will be talking about the survey for the next 30 days.
No, that's a good
Resident.
point.
Okay. All right, so comments are gonna be sent to Michelle for addition to this, and then
Inclusive.
are we, the plan was to include this in the, call it the tax letter, or whatever you wanna call it. Is that still the plan? Just, that's what I would like to see.
We're not gonna have another meeting before then, so.
Yep.
It all depends on whether you guys wanna see it again. I
And the
guess.
text letter's gonna go by email, I think.
I think that's what you discussed.
Yes, email.
Mm-hmm.
We would avoid the postage, yes. Okay, so that was the understanding, that this was gonna all go together. So the tax letter, once it's found, and,
Yeah, we'll find it.
Okay.
I have it, I know I do.
So then attach that to the email, okay.
Okey-dokey.
Okay, we
All
know
right.
that discussion?
Yep.
All right, let's,
we dealt with the landscape architect, we changed that date, everything else on that was fine. Anybody have any other changes on that?
Yeah, any other
RFQ?
comments? Or, okay.
I have I'm not hugely familiar with RFQ, so it's really a process question
Okay.
from my standpoint. So this, section 2, we refer to scope of work, and obviously, we don't, the RFQ is not asking for a number per se from people. I think it specifically says you don't.
You can't.
Oh, you can't.
You
Okay.
cannot.
So,
Just like
But-
when we do.
but when we get to the judgment phase
Yeah.
of the RFQs, we need to know what our own budget is, and obviously we have a pretty good handle on that because we have the assessment and the money we've spent against that. So I guess it's maybe a question for the other supervisors is, do we have we're gonna need to discuss that before we're able to judge the RFQ. So is that something we should be discussing at the meeting in between this and when the RFQs come in?
Joe, got the cost of,
Yes, the actual,
Well, we'll have that.
Gives us the budget.
and that's one of the criteria on which they're judged.
No,
Well, they're not judged.
no, they're not on cost.
No, we can't ask
Yeah.
price, so.
Right, because it's an RFQ as
Like,
opposed to.
I think this is
Right,
for bidding.
Okay, it goes to an
This is
RFQ.
really seeing who will bid on
Right.
doing work for us.
Right.
Then it's a qualitative assessment. Then if we get bidders and then we select somebody, then we tell them, this is our budget, what will you do?
Right, and my
Okay.
question was the process question of, since we can only talk in meetings, we'll at least wanna have a, lick your finger and stick it in the air. Is it all of what's left of the hurricane assessment? Is it more? Is it less? So that was just my question on the process for us.
I mean, if you guys want to have, everything we're saying is true. Price is not a part of the RFQ.
Okay.
But Jill, if you board members want to have a discussion about how much are we planning to spend here, $1, $50,000,
Certainly can be
You
a
can do
workshop
that.
discussion.
There you go.
during your August workshop, or even your September workshop, I suppose.
Yes.
That would be an appropriate time.
This is not an RFQ, it's an RFP.
No.
No, it's an
RFQ.
No,
RFQ.
it's an RFQ.
We're not asking for a quote.
Qualifications.
Qualification.
Oh, qualification.
The other Q.
The other Q.
I think it's a P.
That is the process under 190 for like engineering or landscape architects. It requires an RFQ process where you do not look at pricing.
So we should ask Greg to put that on the August 12th agenda draft, then discuss. Right?
I guess we could, sure.
Does that make sense? I'm getting into your lane, Cheryl, but that was just, I didn't want to let that fly.
No, that's fine. It's really just a matter of looking at what's left in the hurricane assessment. I don't know that, it might be premature to say how much are we gonna allocate to each project. But, I mean, we can certainly have a discussion. not a
Okay.
problem.
Yep.
Okay, got that note.
Okay.
So then with that, like I said, we'll play around with the timeline a little bit, but otherwise we'll get it pushed out.
Fine.
No motion required for this.
I don't believe so.
Okay. All right, we're now to business administration. You got the minutes at tab 6, which is the meeting held on May 13th, 2024. Looking for any comments you may have, or?
I have no additional changes.
Yeah, and I just, full disclosure, I had an exchange with Michelle Rebstock about adding in that small, but I felt important missing item, and it's in there, so. I guess, can I make a motion that we?
Well, that's why we held it up.
Yes, exactly.
So,
Exactly.
with those changes having already been made, we'll make a motion to accept.
Okay. Motion from Rich, there's a second. Second, Jill. Is that as amended or?
No, but we didn't,
Okay.
Right.
we tabled it the last time.
All right, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. We're gonna go to tab 7. You got the June 10th, 2024 minutes. I will note that there is one change in the small editing in the approval of the O&M expenditures where we had to change one number back to the $143,915.42. It's listed twice in there. One's the wrong number right now, so we'll get that fixed.
Okay.
Wait a minute, what was that?
Sorry, there was in the agenda, you all approved the amount of the O&M expenditures of $143,915.42. But in the verbiage in the thing, it's lists like 200 and something thousand. It was the wrong number that was put in there. So we're going to correct that back to the 143,000 number.
Thank you.
So then it would be a motion to approve the June 10th minutes as amended.
As amended.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Well, I see it.
Second.
And the second, any further discussion? All in favor of that motion, say aye.
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 Okay, motion passes. See, Cheryl, I'll remember to ask for discussion. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Old habit. All right, at tab 8, you've got the O&M expenditures for month of May 2024. These total $168,097.99. We're looking for a motion to ratify the already paid.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Ken.
So, down at the bottom,
What page?
the last and next to the last page, there's payments to the Venetian Golf Club for effluent water use.
$953.89?
No, there's three of them.
Oh,
Right.
1,069, yeah.
So it's invoice numbers 45, 45, 46, and 48. There, if you look at the dates, there's a 3-week overlap between the 46 and 48 that looks like we're double paying. So the 953 payment is March 24th to April 24th.
Right.
And then the $2,070 payment is March to April 24th. And then the next one is April 3rd to May 3rd. So there's an overlap of 3 weeks in April.
I'll have our folks take a look at that and see if that's just a typographical issue or see how that fell out.
I took it to mean, Ken, that it was through 04/02/24, but maybe not, I don't know. Because the next is 04/03/24 to 05/03. So I think we're just missing the dates.
Maybe just the.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
It was February 24th, March to April 24th.
Oh, I see what you're saying, July, you know,
Right.
I couldn't tell.
What a number.
Yeah, a lot of numbers.
Yeah, we'll double check that and get the dates corrected.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're not duplicate paying a period of time.
So can we make a motion for approval based upon that review?
You can, if you go ahead and ratify the payments, we'll follow up and check on it. If there's an error in that, then we'll come back and correct that.
Okay, why don't we do that?
Okay.
Is there a motion?
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we accept it pending the review.
All right.
Second.
Second from Jill. So a motion from Rich, second from Jill. Any further discussion? All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes.
We can do all the consent items at once, Greg,
Okay.
if you want.
And I'll just review those, what we have, just for the record. We've got 7 different committee minutes. No, sorry, are there more consent items other than that?
No,
Okay,
so
there's 7 different minutes. Let me just read them for the recording. You have the May 7th committee meetings, May 2024 from the Facilities Advisory Committee. You have the Fitness and Pool Advisory Committee minutes from April 17th. You have the Landscape Advisory Committee minutes of January 8th, 2024. You have the Landscape Advisory Committee minutes of February 2nd, 2024. You have the Landscape Advisory Committee minutes of March 4th, 2024. You have the Landscape Advisory Committee minutes of April 1st, 2024. And you have the Social and Dining Advisory Committee minutes of May 8th, 2024. And we'd just be looking for a motion to accept those minutes.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Okay, motion from Rich.
Second.
Any discussion?
Any further discussion on those? All in favor of that motion, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. We are now at supervisor requests and comments. Do we have any?
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
Always. Just one. I did want to bring up the issue, and I did speak to Andy about whether I can give feedback on a contractor, and I can. I appreciated the comments that were made by the residents about Chris at the front gate. I don't know how I can do this, but I would like to request of our vendor that they reconsider Chris's transfer, or at the very least ensure that Chris is able to stay at the Venetian and work until something opens up for him at the property at which he's requested a transfer. I think some of the residents made a very important point about continuity. Those of us, and I think all of us know Chris, he can be a boisterous person, and at times I think the boisterousness has come across as being loud, and I think it's possible something may have been misconstrued. I also think it's important that if Chris would like to stay, and I hope he would, that we would send a message to the rest of the team members that we appreciate having them here. And finally, I would say the residents aren't easy. I once had the gate on the phone for something and heard a resident beeping their horn and yelling at the officer about something. So I think I'd like to see the temperature on this come down, and I would like to, I don't know how that would happen, but I would just like to express for my own part, I would like Allied to talk to Chris, and if it's possible for him to stay, and if it's not possible, at least to ensure that, that he's got full employment until a spot opens up for him.
I'll just say, yes, Jill and I discussed it, and as I explained to Jill, and I think everybody probably recognizes, it's Allied's decision.
Right, it's Allied's decision.
We can say we like them, we don't like them, you know, it's their decision. It's
It
their
does a great job.
But we certainly can give feedback if that's what the board's decision.
That's just my feedback.
Well, I appreciate your thoughts. I think we should stay out of personnel issues. This is Allied's decision. They are a huge company. I expect that they know what they're doing. And Chris did ask for a transfer some 3 or 4 weeks ago. That was long before anything may have happened. And I would say we should let it be.
Others?
There's a human factor here.
That's right.
Okay.
Well,
I'd
like to comment on that.
Yeah, I was talking about the human factor here. You know, we all have had a chance to interact with Chris during our stay here. And we kind of understand what he has to deal with, you know, what we deal with up here as a CDD supervisors. At all times, he has had the interests of this community at heart. In my neighborhood, we would call Phil, in my old neighborhood in Ivwell, we would call him the police because of the influence. And as a result, you complied with the rules and the regulations, and it helped you to be a better citizen and a resident here. I don't know what happened. I know I have been receiving several calls. I got a visit from the good Dr. Dukes, concerned and upset, and everywhere I go, be it at the pool or anywhere else, this is a issue. I know we don't have the right, it's a contract that is a third-party contract, if you would, but it's a human factor. And I'm concerned, maybe we can send out or pass a motion of goodwill or something as you, for his departure, and that we loved him, saying some good things about it, you know, if necessary. You never know. You just never know. And I just feel bad about it, but this is the nature of the beast, I guess, in corporate America. And that's all I say. I would like to see a motion again, or something of good luck in the future, or whatever. We don't have to take a position, but there's something positive for it.
Ken, what were you gonna say?
Well, I'm somewhat reluctant, but I think it needs to be balanced. I think no company makes a decision lightly, especially on a long tenured employee. And I trust he's gonna be, my understanding, he'll be reassigned to another community, which I think is great of Allied to do that. But at the same time, I think people don't always appreciate how decisions are made and when they're made. And it's one thing, I think we're very fortunate to have good staff members throughout the community, whether it's at the River Club, through Vesta, or Allied, or Rosetta. We've had very good luck with them. But I think it does have to be at least also recognized that something like this doesn't happen due to one occurrence or one event or one instance unless it's catastrophic, which, nothing like that took place. But there's a history here that goes back many years of a number of instances where residents have had issues with Allied employees. And I think it just needs to be said that this action didn't happen because of one or two events. There's a sequence of events, and I know when it happens, employees are talked to by their supervisors, by, in this case, Allied. And I just want the record to show that this type of action isn't taken arbitrarily or unilaterally or on spur of the moment. So I wanted that background brought out, that as much as a lot of people have had good experiences with Allied employees, there's also been a history of not so good. So
Well,
I don't support a motion or something to wish Chris well, because I think he deserves it. But I think like any decision that's made, it's made hopefully from a balance of historical actions.
well, I think the point is here that, getting back to the whole reason why it's the vendor's decision, is that he's not our employee. We don't know all of the information at all. All we know are a few snippets of information here and there, what we may have learned historically or presently. So that's why it's not our decision. And as you wanted, we've discussed it. I'm not sure that this board wants to take any formal action on it. Again, I suppose that's up to you, but I don't think I would recommend it.
I would not support any formal action by the board. If individual members want to send a note of good wishes to Mr. Fenton, I think that would be absolutely fine, but not as board. And again, Ken's comments, I think, are well taken. This obviously was not a knee-jerk reaction. This is a major company with hundreds and hundreds of employees across the nation. So their decision is their decision, and let it be.
Okay. Any other board member comments? Then we're looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, motion from Rich. Second from Joe. Any further discussion?